Last week, the U.S. combat troops suffered their deadliest day in a decade when ISIS-K carried out an attack outside of Kabul airport. While the group has not launched an attack against the U.S. homeland, such a scenario is not impossible. If the U.S. does suffer another major attack that originates in Afghanistan, should that be a valid excuse to re-enter the nation in a military campaign? Does the answer change depending with the cooperation of the Taliban, who are now in charge? So yeah, huge terror attack. It was actually quite tragic. 13 U.S. service members, but like 130, 170 Afghanis died. It's just extremely, extremely tragic. And it's what if these people actually strike on U.S. territory? What should we do then? So we'll start by going through introductions, and we'll go on from there. Alice.
Hopefully you can actually hear me. Hopefully I remembered to unmute. I did. Amazing. I guess the thing for me about this is that, first off, I've heard a lot of narratives talking about this as if, I guess treating everyone the same, essentially being like, it's a terror attack. It's the Taliban. No, it was ISIS. That's very different. They're enemies. They're not happy with each other. So that's part A. And then part B, what is America going to do about this? I mean, obviously America's already responding. We're responding essentially with surgical strikes. And that kind of makes sense. That's a lot cheaper than, sending people back in. And there's not really any reason to do so. The Taliban's not really going to be like, oh yeah, come on in. And right now we have essentially, a group willing to, put their military might forwards and fight against ISIS already. So there's not really much of a reason to do that. Surgical strikes just make more sense. And that's going to be my guess as to what's going to keep happening is just this type of targeted attack. That doesn't really make sense to send people in any more directly than we have right now. If we can go, literally destroy a vehicle known to be, primed with explosives, I don't really think we have to be there if we can do that from, remotely. That's pretty much all I have to say about it right now. I'm sure everyone else is going to have some interesting thoughts, and I probably didn't cover the whole topic, but hey, we've got the next 30 minutes to do that.
Thank you. Hans.
Yeah, not to parrot like too much of what Alice just said. It seems like ISIS-K and the Taliban are not exactly friendly right now. So if the issue inside the group, like inside the country right now, is specifically a non-state affiliated terrorist actor, the surgical strikes that we can do from without having base in the country seem like the best way forward. I don't think Americans are looking forward to going back into a country that we just withdrew from. I think there's other things that we need to focus on, with Afghanistan right now, whether it's say establishing some flavor of a communication and relation with the Taliban government, or making sure that we can get the remaining people who assisted us during the Afghanistan conflict to get to a safe place, whether it's the United States or other countries around the world that are our allies. In this specific case, if the Taliban starts coordinating with these terrorist groups, that could be a more frustrating thing. I'm not at that point. I think it would have to be related to the United States. I would prefer not acting unilaterally, but in some conjunction with our allies, like in NATO and hopefully the UN, in terms of stopping terrorist actors and cells the world over. If it becomes like an Iran situation, that'll be frustrating. But we're currently dealing with Iran. Hopefully peacefully, and if it happens the same thing with the Taliban and the new Afghanistan government, if that's what's going to happen, I prefer that to say another war. So yeah, there's a lot more we can dig into, but just basic babies first stuff. I'm ready to go.
Thank you. Counterpoints.
So I think that this segues neatly not onto a previous perspective that I've articulated in the past. I think the global war on terror is basically jihadist whack-a-mole. We spend a lot of money in order to do it, and it was Osama bin Laden's stated plan to bait the United States into the Middle East and North Africa in order to get them into land wars in Asia, in order to bankrupt the United States to the point of collapse. We don't have to fall for the trap. We don't have to fall for the bait. And unfortunately, we've fallen for the bait for 20 years. So there's a centrist option, which I know you are all very excited to hear, which is it's a concept called foreign internal defense. It's something that the Green Berets do. It's something that the Marines do, basically training locals. There's a resistance force to the Taliban in Panjshir. And I think that using that as a diplomatic negotiative wedge with the Taliban to say, hey, listen, if you permit Al Qaeda or ISIS to operate inside your territory, we are going to fund and support rebels against you. So if you want to have a diplomatic solution to the strife in Afghanistan, then we want you to have a negotiated peace with the remnants of the Afghan government that we are still capable of supporting. We can either make this really ugly or we can make this really diplomatic. It's up to you. And then using the counter theocratic rebels in Afghanistan as a bargaining chip to secure peace in the region and globally. I think that's the smarter move. I'll leave it there.
Okay. Let's go to Rebel Rise.
Yeah, so obviously huge tragedy that happened. Pretty predictable, I think, given the circumstances. All those people confined in an area where we're surrounded essentially by hostile forces. It's bound to continue to happen the longer we stay on the ground. So I'm glad that it seems like most of the United States effort is up, at least out of Afghanistan, or if not, they will be very shortly. And any efforts like for the United States to possibly consider going back in are at this point are just absolutely insane. I think that we've got way more of a challenge there than we originally had in 2001. We left them with much more weapons, more money, more talent, more practice. Like they've got more guns, artillery, tanks, you name it. Like they've got everything, and they've even got an air force now. So. Like, I think that it's just out of the picture that the United States is going to use force in like any kind of like on the ground occupational way to take back Afghanistan. The only hope that we have is trying to make some kind of peaceful negotiation with the Taliban for some kind of support in their fight against ISIS, which we all know like Taliban and ISIS don't get along at all. And seems like they are very hostile to them being there. Hopefully that continues. Hopefully we can get China to come around and chip in some effort, to either assist or oversee some of the regions of Afghanistan. Obviously, they're going to be building their Belt and Road Initiative through there too, and it's going to be very important for them to maintain security presence. So I think that the combination of like precision airstrikes from a distance, as the United States is perfectly capable of doing, we have the technology and we don't mind spending billions upon billions of dollars doing it. So like that combined with using the other resources in the area and hopefully we can take some allies out of this deal and we won't have to worry about it. But otherwise, it's a pretty frightening proposition to leave the Taliban in charge with an air force and ISIS knocking on their door already.
Spartacus.
So my position with this is, I think it was good for us to pull out. I think it was time for us to pull out. But if it should Afghanistan strike again, from like after we're pulling out, should they strike our homeland again, I don't think we should send more troops on the ground. I think sending more troops on the ground is only going to implement the idea that we need to actually nation build again. You saw how good we nation built in 20 years. I'm not looking at a 20-year war to look at a failure of nation building and losing that many men to try and build a nation that just collapsed within 11 days after us leaving. And so I think that if we do get attacked from Afghanistan again, we do precision airstrikes or we make a couple mob-sized holes inside of Afghanistan as a show of force and to make sure that they know that Americans aren't ones to be fucked with.
Interesting. Agent 10.
Yeah, it's ridiculous the fact that this has lasted 20 years and it's the same age as I. It was just mind-blowing, but I'm glad we're out. ISIS-K and the Taliban are very different. If it is proven that the Taliban would attack us again or they are helping ISIS-K in any way in doing so, I think we should drop a lot more bombs. No more people need to be sent over there. For the most part, though, to get rid of ISIS-K, we have to work with the government of Afghanistan, which is right now the Taliban. I think that's a necessary evil to get rid of some more terrorists.
Okay. Aristocracy.
I am in the midst of trying to research this issue and trying to learn more about it. I know much more about the history of Afghanistan than the current military situation. But I feel very mixed because my normal instinct, and people who know me will know this, that I'm actually normally very pro-interventionist. And it's very rare that I will be against an intervention, especially when it comes to human rights issues and such. And I actually think the United States does have a role to play in terms of, I think whenever there's a country that is, a superpower and like very powerful, they've got some kind of role to play in protecting what are considered human rights like around the world. The problem that I have here is that was already attempted with Afghanistan, obviously, like over 20 years, and there are also a lot of misconceptions that people have. I mean, to this day, most people think that it was the Taliban that did 9/11, right? And this is like something that it's so common that even like presidential candidates think this. Um, and I think that a lot of people, and I really don't want to come off like I'm defending the Taliban, because the Taliban is a very, very problematic organization, right? I would never want to live under their rule. But they're not ISIS and they're not Al Qaeda. And if you actually understood a lot of things about like Afghani culture, and the Taliban is very Afghani. There's like actually, the name slipping. Maybe someone here knows it. The specific culture that the Taliban come from.
Pashtun.
Yeah, Pashtun. So a huge part of a very, very important part, but you often always hear about the negative parts of their culture, right? Like the eye for an eye, the revenge focus, right? But a huge, I guess, what a lot of people would consider a positive part of the culture is this idea of like housing and protecting your guests and never selling your guests out to the enemy, even if you hate your guests, even if you're against your guests. And that is how, whether this is true or not, I do not know, right? But this is how they defend. And it would be consistent with their morals. Like they defend how they protected Al Qaeda. So there's like, so I don't want to just immediately jump to treating them like ISIS. And there's a bigger enemy here that to me is a lot more problematic. So it would make much more sense to me to try to work with the Taliban. But again, I might be coming out of total ignorance about some of the current actions right now of the Taliban. So I would take that with a grain of salt. It's hard for me to say that because it was one of my core beliefs that I don't think that your human rights, what human rights you get, should depend on which country that you're born in, and which is one of the reasons why I'm such a huge interventionist. And I think people who aren't interventionists, like, it weirds me out when they have very, like, especially when they're moral realists. That does make sense to me. But yeah, in this instance, it feels like, especially like the Taliban have done some changes, right? Like they're small, but there have been at least some changes. So it makes more sense to be a little more optimistic with that. But yeah, I can't imagine how it feels to be a veteran right now. It probably feels like, yeah, all those years fighting for what you believed in was a waste. So
it sucks.
So, okay, interesting where you all took this. One, I actually didn't know, Eris, that you were interventionist, though you probably said so before on the channel. I just don't remember. But all right. Oh, I'll go to counterpoints first, but I do have a place I want to take this. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted, on behalf of Dylan Burns, I just want to make sure that we try to minimize our use of the word Afghani. I think the proper term is Afghan. I know that triggers the fuck out of them and a few other people.
Afghanis? Sorry, what? All right, we got to protect Afghanis. What?
Afghanis the currency.
You mean Afghanis the people? The Afghanis?
Afghans.
The Afghanis?
Afghans.
The Afghanis?
No I.
The Afghanis? Okay, I will protect them. Don't worry. But go ahead.
Okay, all right, fuck. All right, that's gonna be rough for him. But anyway, all right, I just caught up.
I'm sure Dylan will be fine.
So yeah, all right, so fuck it. So yeah, I just wanted to clarify what Eris just said, because I know that it's like a common misconception that kind of needs to be clarified. The Taliban are an Islamic theocracy that has regional ambitions. They basically want to control Afghanistan and Afghanistan only, but they do want to impose a theocracy upon the people. That's why we still get pissed off. And we talk shit about them basically throwing acid in the faces of schoolgirls trying to go to school and doing targeted assassinations against secular or modernist forces. The reason why we talk shit about them is because they're a regional power that wants to impose Islamic theocracy. Al Qaeda is a anti-imperialist, anti-American, anti-secular Islamic theocratic organization, but they don't have like governmental ruling ambitions. They're a terrorist organization that is trying to leverage the use of violence in order to strike back at imperialist powers that are intervening in the Middle East and North Africa. ISIS is a creation of the war in Iraq and Syria, where Al-Qaeda in Iraq basically died with, I forget the gentleman's name, but he's definitely not a gentleman. He's a fucking piece of shit. I could look him up. But Jordanian-born prison terrorist asshole who basically ran Al-Qaeda and slaughtered thousands of people. With the death of him, ISIS basically seized it as a regional power.
Bin Laden?
Al-Baghdadi.
Al-Baghdadi came after this guy, but Al-Baghdadi ran ISIS. So ISIS was in Iraq and Syria, and then they created an offshoot that went back into Afghanistan. So if you kind of think of like a cancer, like a tumor, kind of like, where it like spreads to the rest of the body, that's kind of what happened between these terrorist cells and terrorist organizations. And now Al-Qaeda is still around, but not as powerful as it used to be. ISIS was powerful until it got the shit kicked out of it in the Middle East and North Africa. And then the Taliban have never really gone away, but they've hid in the shadows until the United States withdrew. So the reason why you probably hear so many people on this panel willing to negotiate with the Taliban, despite it being like morally distasteful and against the propaganda that we've all been consuming for the past 20 years, is because we're hoping that we don't have to play jihadist whack-a-mole forever. And if the Taliban do seize power while they're nefarious, hopefully they would be able to offer some level of stability to the country so it doesn't just become a recruiting ground for terrorism, which is kind of the history. So I just wanted to explain that for the audience real quick.
So go ahead. No, Alice, you first.
I was just going to say two things. I was going to say, first off, thank you for explaining as well, counterpoints, because that actually, someone in my chat already thanked you. Second off, I just wanted, like, the other thing for me that really confuses me about this type of situation is, like, the Taliban and, like, say, Saudi Arabia have a lot in common. Like, tactics they use are really, really similar. Their level of, like, extremism is very, very similar. The, like, type of theocracy, that, like, the way that their rules work, they're really, really similar. And you don't hear people shit talking Saudi Arabia very often. I definitely
none of
find that
this is about the criticism. Like any of the, like, it's all geopolitics, right? It's
Yeah.
just the fact that the Taliban was, it was protecting Al Qaeda. It was geopolitically against the United States. So.
Yeah, but I
And-
always
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I always see, like, people, like, who don't know much very much about this type of situation just start shit talking the Taliban for, like, and they are obviously bad. They're, to me, equally as bad as Saudi Arabia, and I don't agree with how Saudi Arabia does things either. But they're all just as bad. Every these types of like very extreme, very fundamental, like socially conservative theocracies, they're all the same. So, like, the Taliban is not the organization it was in the 90s, and I feel like people don't understand that very well. So,
Well, here's the thing, right? So Saudi Arabia recently allowed women to drive. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I don't
So
believe
the most
that.
basic stuff
Well, no,
ever.
so I mean,
so did the Taliban.
I mean,
Wait.
I actually think Spartacus has a
if
point here.
we're actually
Yeah,
going to
there
look
are
at this,
nuances.
right? The Saudi Arabia recently allowed women to drive. The Taliban isn't even allowing young girls to go to school. I highly doubt the Taliban's underneath their rules going to allow women to drive. So making this equal to the Taliban is extremely disingenuous to actually Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia has been an ally of the United States against terrorism for quite a while. So if you actually take a look at Saudi Arabia, what you're saying about Saudi Arabia and the Taliban is actually quite not true. Saudi Arabia and Taliban do not get along. They don't agree with each other. It's not geopolitically the same.
Okay,
Are you
despite
defending the good name of the kingdom of
Okay,
Saudi Arabia?
I also want to apologize and then expand on Spartacus. Okay, so Sprout, like, I memed on you like for a second there, but but he does have. There's 2 points I want to make here. One is that I understand the inclination of a lot of lefties to be like, hey, like, everyone is bad. Like, if we're fighting Taliban, why don't we also fight, like, every human rights violator and, like, every, like, violator of, like, women's rights the world over? Why can't we do that? It's because I'm, like, normally a political realist when it comes to, like, the international politics stuff. So in this case, we can't fight everywhere on the planet at the same time. If we're trying to, like, say, stop, like, X bad group, who I could probably say is markedly worse than Saudi Arabia, if we have to work with Saudi Arabia to do that, I would probably say we should probably do that for, like, the purpose of getting rid of that, like, specific group. In the same way that I would say argue with a person who is racist to stop a murderer, right? And say that, like, this person is way worse, and this person is really bad. Again, like not defending Saudi Arabia's like human rights abuses. A lot of the female activists who got the right for women to drive were executed. So like, you know, so there's a lot of stuff, or in jail. There's a lot of stuff like to put about this, but like I don't think that it's a good point to make that everyone is bad, so why are we focusing on X? Because at that point we can deflect and go around the circle for like literally every human rights abuser on the planet.
Okay,
well, yeah,
but
we could.
I would.
Sorry,
well,
go
and
on.
I want to bump up Alice or back up Alice real quick. So here's the thing though, like if Afghanistan was sitting on the world's third largest proven oil reserves and also made symbolic gestures to fight jihadism, then we would do the same apologia for them that we do for Saudi Arabia. And I think it needs be remarked that the Saudi royal family largely tamps like up until very recently was promoting Islamic conservatism across the entire Middle East and North Africa. And they've only recently taken steps in order to combat their own machinations because they realize that like, oh shit, like we're promoting something that is one step away from jihadism. So we might need to back down a little bit because basically we're fueling the thing that is in turn attacking the people who buy the oil from us. So like this is, I don't know. I
totally get the point. I get the point, but I do think that it's like we don't want to wipe all fundamentalist types of Islam with the same kind of brush. They all have like a very different feeling. And I know that they could seem the same to people like who are not Muslim, right? Or especially people like myself that are just not religious at all. However, there are important nuances that directly affect women's lives. For example, in Saudi Arabia, women are allowed to get an education. Okay, yeah, they need permission from their male leader or whatever you want to call that, guardian, to do so. But they still can get an education, and like so what they're fighting for is for education to be better quality and for women to be able to get education by themselves without getting approval from a male guardian, or for education to not be so divided, because right now men and women are kept super separate, and the segregation leads to women's education being a lower quality. So like those are the things they're fighting for. Whereas like with the Taliban, it's like the issues are so much more extreme. It's like a woman just getting any kind of basic education. The effects on them is just, I would 100% prefer to be a woman in Saudi Arabia. Like it wouldn't even matter. Like I wouldn't even have to think about it. So
Sure.
it is so like I don't want to act. I do think Alice brought up like a good point that none of this is actually about, you know, some kind of like morals and like our objections to this form of like Islamic fundamentalism. I agree there. But I just disagreed with that point, that it just with the last thing, that it just being all basically the same.
Okay, so the reason why I want to summarize this, I just want to defend it while conceding the nuance. So basically,
Connor, do it. Give us the point. No, I agree. It's a good point. You can say they're bad, but then we have to say like, I understand, so we can move on with the conversation. Like actually talk about what we want.
Sure. So I just want to say that a decent chunk of the past 20 to 30 years, the history of Saudi Arabia was promoting Wahhabism, which was like one of the most conservative strains of Islam around, and promoting that like across the Middle East and North Africa. So while I can concede that like, is Wahhabism as extreme as the Taliban's version of Islam, I would literally have to look down at it, and I would have to like go page for page and like all that kind of stuff. I will concede for my buddy Hans over here that it's a spectrum of bad, and as long as the other people are willing to acknowledge that there's geopolitical realities here that are absolutely influence our decisions, then I don't have to get on my moral high horse and fucking grandstand about how everybody's fucking terrible. I can just say there's political realities that are influence our decisions, and there's a whole bunch of really bad choices that we have to make.
Yeah, it's not as simple as Taliban bad, everyone else is fine. It's literally like kind of a spectrum of bad.
One's a
right?
turd, one's a shiny turd.
So like Taliban, the Taliban is by far worse though. If you're gonna compare it to, if you're gonna use your comparison of Saudi Arabia, the Taliban is by far worse than Saudi Arabia.
No,
I mean,
it's not.
Compared to
Not
what?
any metric.
Not.
For
It
Really?
women,
matters what we do it from.
For women, yes.
For women, it's I would say moderately worse, but it's not even significantly worse.
It's
the Taliban
significantly
and
worse.
it's not significantly worse.
Are
They-
Can
they
a,
have-
can a woman
Yemen?
get an education in the under
Currently-
the Taliban rule?
Currently, yes, and it's looking like
Currently,
it's,
yes. No,
yes.
Taliban started off when they took over. They made
In
sure that none of the girls.
1990.
No, just recently, they made sure
No.
none of the little girls would. Yes, they did.
They
Do
also
you need a
just
source on this?
They also just recently said female nurses return to work. We're going to keep training female nurses. They're not. It's not as similar. It's not the same as it was in the 90s. It's still bad. It's still terrible.
I think
no
they're
one's
not-
saying it's not terrible.
And also on top of that, didn't they also just execute a comedian? Didn't they also just
They
execute a bunch
did
of
also
police
just-
chiefs?
The-
Didn't they
the-
also just
Yeah,
like,
they did do that.
okay?
too.
yes, I mean, there's
and not
other.
only that, hold on.
the Saudis,
There's
the
one.
Saudis also just beheaded some people for witchcraft. Like,
Why are
Yeah.
we
Right,
parsing
okay.
semantics of significantly versus moderately bad?
It's,
Yeah,
it's,
okay.
it's like,
We can just
we
say
have
they're
to-
bad.
Because he's not saying moderately, and also on top of that, isn't so. I would be remiss if I did not mention the forgotten cause of every leftist a year and a half ago, the Saudi Arabian blockade of Yemen, where basically because there was Houthi rebels who are aligned with Iran, they've basically like starved like 3 million people. So no, like our friends, some of our friends are fucking awful. And it's literally like a media focus on like, okay, the Taliban threw acid in this teenage girl's face because she was trying to go to school. That's going to be nationwide news because they want you to know how fucking bad it is. Whereas they are not going to stick a camera in the face of a fucking 10-year-old Yemeni child who's being starved to death by a fucking blockade because they don't want you to know that some of our friends are nefarious, evil motherfuckers because they sit on some of the world's most rich raw materials on the face of the planet, and to criticize them is tantamount to fucking our own ability to gain access to those material resources.
Also,
True.
fucking clip me on this. A year from now, when Afghanistan turns out, to be willing to, the Taliban's going to negotiate with China, and America's going to be like, oh shit, look, oil, money, resources, and we're going to go in there, and we're going to treat them the same as we treat Saudi Arabia. In a year from now, that's what it's going to be. Clip this and come back to me a year later.
If
I mean,
they can make it
you're-
profitable.
You're absolutely right. That's exactly what's going to happen.
Sam,
If they can make it profitable.
Sam, you
No, I
want-
mean, I was just agreeing with Alice. I mean, I think that we need to give the Taliban has promised a lot of things, and we should be aware of it. But again, the Taliban and ISIS. I know this kind of I missed the beginning of it, but ISIS-K and Taliban are different entities, and we have to look at them differently, separately.
Yeah, and as far as the spectrum is concerned, I think that ISIS is clearly like on the far extreme bad end, and Taliban is much more moderate compared to where ISIS-K is at this point. And as far as Saudi Arabia comparison,
with that.
stupid. We're never gonna. Saudi Arabia bailed us out in the 70s with $2 trillion worth of loaned money, loaned oil. When France tried to call in their gold currency, we're never going to break our partnership with Saudi Arabia. Bottom line, we just have to deal with it.
I also
It'd be
just want to
nice if they would
respond
help us.
to Sprout. Sprout, you asked for a source. So
Who's
there's an
that
interview
news?
for you from a Taliban leader. Women in Afghanistan will have the right to work and be educated up to university level. So
I don't trust the Taliban on what they say for a single second.
And you
Okay,
trust
but-
Saudi
wait, wait,
Arabia.
wait,
But we don't have a choice on that.
We actually
wait, okay.
see statistics in Saudi Arabia
So
of
the
girls
Taliban
getting
can't
schooled.
tell-
I don't
Okay,
trust the
okay,
Taliban.
God, Sprout, don't do this to me, buddy. Okay, so specifically, you asked for a source, they provided, and then you said no, source.
I asked.
Source
No, I
won't
asked.
matter.
No, I
You
asked.
like-
No, Hans. I asked if she needed it sourced. I didn't
I
say.
just sourced
I
the
said,
the
I
reverse
said,
of you.
Okay.
Like
So your sources count more?
So,
You can say we
No,
can
I'm
wait
saying
and
I don't
see.
trust.
Sprout,
I don't
I'll-
trust the Taliban
wait and see.
for
Neither-
every single
neither-
word they
neither-
say.
neither
Wait
do
and
I.
see is probably
Like,
the best
wait and
answer.
see.
But what-
neither-
Like making hard claims here is it's a young state, right?
But-
It's not.
Brand new.
Afghanistan is not a young state, but the Taliban
Taliban.
backed. Yeah, well, this iteration of the Taliban revolt is like a young state. It's only been in power for 2 weeks, so we have to see what happens. That's
Yeah.
realistically what we have to do.
And we know what
But
they're
the thing is-
claiming, right? And I doubt they're going to meet most of their claims, but who knows, right? So
Right. And what
yeah,
we don't
I-
really
I
have
could
a
argue
choice.
about that.
I guess I make the concession and say we'll wait and see, but I'm not alone on the world stage that I don't trust the Taliban for a single fucking second. Most
make you enough
world,
money
most
Dude,
most all world leaders
neither do
not
I.
trust the
agree.
Taliban.
I agree with you. That's not the point. The thing is, we cannot know. So instead of being immediately all right, we know that they're gonna hyper oppress the fuck out of women. We can say right now, because it doesn't seem like there's any effort to currently topple them right now. Wait like 3 months, see how they treat like the like the people who weren't able to get out of the country that like aided the Americans, see how they treat the women. And then like if again at that point, if we want to like pull like our international like human rights stuff and we say, oh, should we like topple them again because they haven't like come through on their human rights stuff, we can have that conversation then. But like having it right now when we literally cannot know whether or not they're being like quote unquote genuine. Again, I agree that I don't trust them, but like there's no way of knowing whether what they're doing like is genuine at this point. So just we're not in a position right now to like topple them. So just wait. And then if we want to decide to do it then, we can do it then. But like we can't have that conversation right now.
Okay, well, I don't know if Sprout was talking about toppling anyone, but I think we can make an educated guess on what's going to happen to the Afghanistani
of course,
citizens.
we can make an educated guess, but we can't do anything about it. That's the problem.
Yeah, but like to be a bit charitable to him, we all know what's going to happen. Come on, guys.
Yeah, sure. Like we all know what's going to happen, but we can't do anything about it. That's like really, I just want to stress again, like there's nothing we can do about it. It doesn't matter whether we trust them, don't trust them, like them, don't like them. They're de facto government of the country. They won the war, and there's nothing we can do about it at this point.
Like, agreed. But pretend that this is like turning over a new leaf and it's something else.
We can do.
I didn't say it was turning over a new leaf. I'm just saying it.
We can do what we do with any other major country, right? We can apply economic sanctions. We can make it very tough on Afghanistan to trade.
It's not. Yeah, there's no pressure to lean on them, and you're just going to
pressure them.
But here's
soybeans.
They can't be economically sanctioned.
Okay, but here's another thing that I think that's important in this conversation. We're talking specifically again. We're talking about like bad and worse people. I'm not talking about Saudi Arabia versus the Taliban right now. I'm talking about Taliban versus like ISIS-K. One of them, as like Connor is like as adequately like explained, is a regional power that is concerned with like the governing of Afghanistan at this point. It doesn't seem like they're trying to create like an international like Islamic caliphate. So if they are currently like fighting like the ISIS-K group, and they're not allied, and they like allow us to continue say like any targeted strikes we do against them with like out any real issue, then at that point in time it doesn't seem like we should be trying to topple them. I agree with you that I don't think they're going to like make a lot of their demands like into reality, and that's totally fine. It just again, like Revolt said, we are not currently in a position to stop that or like see in the future and check. So let's keep doing what we're doing with the targeted strikes, see like where it goes from here, and then hope our continued pressure will make them, like Saudi Arabia, like give incremental improvement and progress for women's rights in the region.
There's also an opportunity here that I think people are discounting. So there's at least, I don't know if there's actual will on the ground to fight, but you know, we're talking about like a multi-ethnic, multi-linguistic society. In the western part, we have the Hazaras. In the north, we have the Tajiks and the Uzbeks and the Turkmen and all that kind of stuff. The Northern Alliance, as they were previously called. And apparently in like the central eastern part, there's a region called Panjshir where like a lot of the loyalist Afghan forces rallied in order to basically begin taking the country back or something like that. We haven't seen any progress. I don't expect to see any progress. But between all the Northern Alliance, the Hazara population, and the Panjshir rebels, there's enough here that you could negotiate a diplomatic representative government. It's probably still going to be a theocracy. It's probably still going to be Islamic conservative. You're probably still going to have to bend the knee to the Taliban because they're the power brokers within the country. But at the same time, you can say, as the United States, like, listen, you can't let international terrorist organizations operate within your country without impunity, or else we're going to fund people to come and fucking kill you. And that's just the deal. So either deal with ISIS-K and basically kick their fucking ass, or we're going to pay people to kick your fucking ass. And that's basically what it is.
I think the threat of that alone is enough to like have like the Taliban like be against ISIS-K. That's like why they're against them right now.
Yeah, but
like they're against them for multiple
don't fuck
ideology.
This up. We want to control Afghanistan. Don't fuck this up, ISIS. You fucking assholes.
And they also like relied a lot on local power. Essentially, they relied very much on getting actual local support. Like I talked about this literally, I think 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, about how the Taliban is literally garnering local support. It's not just like from obviously men, but still local support from like tribal leaders in their country. They didn't like just randomly take over the country. They made a really, really shrewd political move that resulted in them immediately seizing power because everyone was basically like, bye America. Okay, come on in, Taliban. Come on. Like, like.
And this is how you topple a regime in what, like a few weeks? And this is kind of like why a lot of veterans, you were asking like, how do veterans feel? I think a lot of veterans, not necessarily me, I fucking dealt with it, but I think a lot of veterans probably feel the same way they felt about Vietnam, which is basically like, we fought for a fucking, decade, 2 decades. We gave up thousands of American lives. And this is what you do with those efforts. Like, fuck you. But at the same time, like that being said, you do not topple a government within 6 weeks or not 6 weeks, within like 6 months or within 2 weeks without some level of either local passivity or local support. So either and that's actually how like a real way to distribute power is to say like, y'all can be autonomous, but we're going after the central government. So we're going to roll through here. We won't fuck with y'all. You can keep running your own region, but basically we're going to be the new power brokers and you have to deal with us once we take out the central government.
Well,
and that's probably a very
ask.
real conversation that happened over the past, like probably 2 years whenever we announced that we were leaving.
That's what I wanted to ask was like, because at first my instinct was just immediately to think when they toppled the government like so quickly was that's what the people wanted. Right? It was done easily. The people of Afghanistan want to live in a theocracy, right?
Either that or they don't want to fight
instinct. But then I realized that was a super like ignorant thing to say because I have no clue if there were other factors that led to because I don't know the details of how it was toppled and everything. So I was just like wondering if someone could kind of summarize you know, like how it was done.
So it was toppled. It was toppled because the Taliban, prior to the United States leaving, was making deals with regions that if you just surrender as soon as we show up, if you just surrender, then we won't fight you, we won't shoot you, we won't cause any damage, we will literally just accept your surrender, and there will be no.
Why doesn't everyone else do this in other countries in the same situation? Like, why was it so effective?
They offered them positions in the. Oh, go ahead, Alice.
No, go on, Revolt.
I was gonna say that they offered them positions in the like the Taliban offered them like positions in their military and their government, and like that was a big part of it. And so the other problem is that like the United States like stopped funding or making payments basically to the ANA, and so you had these guys that had been some 3, 4 or longer months without any pay at all. And when they were getting paid, they were getting like they were getting a very small amount that was like, you know, getting bribes taken out of it. They had like in some cases I heard reports of people having only 30 rounds of ammunition per soldier, and like, you know, you're not going to do anything with that. That thing goes away in seconds. So like there was just like, you know, a demoralization. Everybody was hungry. Everybody was poor. You know what I mean? And they were able to walk in and say, we'll give you $200 for that gun you're holding, and we'll give you a job in our new military, and we won't kill you.
So if what you're saying is true, right? Do you think that it's possible that the Afghan people sorry, it's just like so many
killing birds in shambles right now.
Like, so many states in the Middle East use E at the end. That the Afghan people don't actually, it's possible that they don't actually want to live in a theocracy, but it was like the way the United States left was irresponsible.
This is okay, but this is like kind of my question because this is actually kind of my question because when you look at like popular support, if you look at Pew Research polls as far as like support for theocracy or Sharia law in particular, or support for you know, basically suicide bombing or something like that, the stats are actually shocking. So so I would say like I want to say like even in the United States it's like as high as 50%. I want to say that overseas it's as high as like 80%, 90%. Like I could literally pull the Pew Research polls and show it to you. So for me, hearing that like, you know, people in the Middle East and North Africa don't want to live in a theocracy, I would need to see evidence to the contrary. I kind of feel like this is like a Western secular, you have to separate the government from the religion kind of perception that we're projecting onto a culture that is fundamentally different than our own. So I would have to hear the contradictory evidence to believe that, everybody's actually secular and they want a secular government and they want a democratic government. They just won't fight for it for some reason. Like I need to hear contradictory evidence.
So like at the same time.
Wait, sorry, go ahead, Sprout.
Go ahead. Okay, so at the same time, like if you take a look at the Afghan history, right? Take a look at the Afghan history. There's bound to be rebel groups that are going to fight the Taliban. Even after they get rid of ISIS-K, there's going to be another rebel group that fights against the Taliban. It just history proves this. Unless they're going to make a radical change to where they actually accept a form of government. But the idea, like in Afghanistan, there's so many different there's so many different types of Muslims that they're not all going to agree underneath one government, and that's why there's always been infighting because of the arbitrary lines that the British drew, that the Afghans don't even really care about, because even within Afghanistan, you can cross a line and all of a sudden they're speaking a different language, and that's just because the British when they left
Yeah, no, you're making a
Afghanistan
great point.
yes, when they left Afghanistan was that they just drew an arbitrary line that meant nothing to the people there.
No, I think you're making a great point. Especially that like the Taliban and the culture and the specific form of Islam, I forget what it's called, but I think it's with a D. But the specific form of Islam that they follow is not from Afghanistan; it's from Pakistan, right?
Pakistan,
Like,
right?
yeah, right. Like, so, the term Taliban literally means like students from being students in Pakistan, when they were learning that brand of Islam. So, like, yeah, I'm sure that I can imagine that the people are not completely united under that form of Islam.
And can
Islam's
I
very diverse.
Yeah, and can I kind of ram this home a little bit? So basically looking up like support for basically Islamic theocracy or whatever, or Sharia specifically, is in Pakistan it's 84%, in Afghanistan it's 99%, and this is a Pew Research poll from 2017.
Yeah.
So like this is what I'm saying. Like, I understand it's uncomfortable. I understand that it's uncomfortable. One of the fundamental parts of our society is the separation of church and state, the separation of theocracy in the state. And then basically we all openly espouse the benefits of the division of power and liberal democracy. But just because we love like liberal democracy and the division of power in secular states does not mean that this is a uniformly held belief. And
Right.
even on top of that, like, you're kind of right, because like I talked about this with my buddy Gassim, who's from Sudan. He's like, most people don't know what that means. They don't know what it means to have a state that supports Sharia law. All they hear is like, do you want to have your religion influence your governmental politics? And they say, yeah, absolutely. But then there's basically like a spectrum of how hard you translate the faith into the republic. So then, like, basically it's like, oh, do you want a secular democracy imposed upon you by an imperialist power that's inherently corrupt, that's basically has
Murdering
been
your families and you're blowing up your houses and your cities and killing kids.
Yeah, do you want a murderous kleptocracy imposed upon you by an imperialist power? Or do you want a government that might be theocratic, but it aligns with your values, and we promise not to kill you? And actually, one of the interesting things about the Afghan government is they've been or not Afghan government, one of the interesting things about the Taliban when they've swept into power, I literally thought it was going to be mass executions. I literally thought like every single female politician, every single police chief, every single general was going to be walked out into the street and executed.
Well,
basically...
like our NATO ally Turkey did to the Kurds in Syria, like that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that's what I was expecting. And when it became more, I'm not saying it's not fucked up, but I'm saying when it was more selective. So for instance, they went to the government workers. In a normal revolution, you would just kill them all, right? That's what you would be expecting. Instead, they literally said, hey, y'all come to work the next day. And then when everybody showed up, they said, hey, women, sorry, you can't work anymore for your own security. You got to go home. And that was it.
So there are reports of the Taliban like searching around for like female reporters and like taking down like their addresses and their areas, right? And the details. They're also like the women in Afghanistan who have educations, right, are terrified. So whether they're right to be terrified or not, I guess we'll find out soon. But
no, they have every right to be terrified.
They're burning their diplomas, right? Their degrees that they learned, that they earned. They are deleting their foreign contacts, right? They're deleting all that stuff. They are pretty much hiding any traces that they were involved with the West. So we'll see again what that actually equals. The Taliban again noting down who was like a foreign reporter, but we'll see.
I mean, can you blame them though, Prime? Biden Biden essentially gave the Taliban a kill list.
Right.
Biden said, "Here's everybody who worked with us. Here's all of our American citizens. Here's everyone that's important to America. Oh, and by the way, we're not even going to take all of them back in. We're going to leave some of them behind. And you still have that list of names that you're going to try and hunt down and kill.
Yeah,
like this is absolutely asinine that we gave them this kill list."
I think giving it a list was fine as long as we actually evacuated every single person on that list. But it was never going to happen.
And wait, a couple things. Like the Biden administration has like evacuated like hundreds of thousands of people like in like under like in just a few weeks. Like this is like
how many
very
of them
very
were
fast.
American citizens versus the Afghanis? I don't know.
Like lots of Afghanis. So like we should keep getting all. Like, oh my God,
it's up to 140,000 Afghan citizens.
Thank you, Connor. All right, can I continue? All right, so cool. Okay, so we've done that. We're going to continue to do that. I think having the list, like in terms of getting them out, was extremely useful. I wanted to we kind of moved past.
Are we going to continue to do that?
But yes, the Biden administration.
No more flights.
Yeah, I think they just the last evacuations finished today.
So the Pentagon announced today that the war is over. The last military troops left Afghanistan, and according to NBC News, roughly 350 Americans are still in Afghanistan who want to leave. And what Biden essentially said is that we're going to work with the Taliban diplomatically to try and get these 350 people back, which probably means the Taliban is going to say, "Okay, we'll give you these Americans back, but in order for us to do that, we want some people out of Guantanamo Bay."
I'm talking about people, Afghanistan people, not U.S. citizens, which is what I'm referring to, getting them out. Well, we actually put effort into that. So
no, I don't think
probably not.
Yeah, that's how I was asking.
Okay,
it's to be determined.
Can I please finish?
Yeah, finish your point, Hans.
Yeah. So military effort, in terms of like a force, like taking over airports and stuff aside, that's probably not going to happen anymore. We're probably going to try and do like diplomatic stuff to get like both the Afghan people who were helped us out and like the Americans out. I don't know if it's going to be some Iranian like hostage crisis like that Sprout's like trying to allude to. Like let's wait on that. I would say to Connor, I can't find the source. I'll get I have a friend like finding it right now. I'll tell you as soon as I know. I'm pretty sure there was some like relatively good opinion polling on like whether people say supported specifically the Taliban, even if like say they want like a theocracy, they did not like the Taliban like running the government of Afghanistan. So what that tells me is that the Taliban probably saw that and they realized that as they're sweeping into power that they can't be like as terrible as they were, right? But I think there's a pretty like good PR reason as to why they're not like executing everyone in the streets in the same way that like we thought they were going to, right? It's giving them like say a lot of goodwill among the people of Afghanistan. Not saying they're not killing people, not saying they're not like killing journalists, or like they're doing like all sorts of horrible things, but it's like they're simply trying to say like we're not as bad as you thought we were going to be, and because there's no real alternative right now with the exception of like a couple of like the other resistance groups like fighting them, we're gonna have to accept this. So I think they're trying to play into like the role of the government, but I don't think I really just want to push back against the idea that the people of Afghanistan like wanted the Taliban to take control. I feel like a lot of people were either bystanders and that they didn't know how to stop it, and like the relationship between the Taliban and how the Afghanistan government relied so heavily on the United States for its military operations, for its defense and stuff, that they weren't able to function by themselves once we left. And again, that's a failure. That's a failure of like nation building, if you want to call it that. That's a failure of like that government. I'm not gonna try and like defend them and say that they were a bunch of like heroes, because they crashed and burned, right? But I don't think I think it's lazy for us to say that the people of Afghanistan were ready to nut themselves over being taken over by the Taliban.
Okay,
they didn't really do much to stop it.
Well, can I?
Oh, let's get
Alice go, but I want to be nuanced.
I want to be next. All right, I'm sorry. Okay.
Oh my God. The only thing I wanted to mention is somebody brought that study up again 2 or 3 weeks ago, and when we talked about this last, I think it was on an Amazon Lily panel. Anyway, whatever panel it was, we talked about the same exact topic with the same exact survey brought up, and 2 things about that survey. It was in 2012 or 2013. So well before this, the Taliban actually did what they did 2 years ago and started actually garnering local support. Second off, the survey was done by a company that actually has like major financial control over oil pipelines, and they had financial interest in the results of the survey. So I will just mention that about that one, and then on to counterpoints, because for some weird reason we're arguing the same position. That's weird.
Yay! So basically what I would say is,
listen, I'm a worldly man. I watched the first season of Narcos, okay? And there's this concept called, plato or plomo, right? Silver or lead. So basically, like, you either take the bribe or you get killed. And there's some people who didn't take the bribe, obviously, or they fought tooth and nail against the Taliban and their allies for the past 2 decades. And even if they took the bribe, they would still end up getting killed. Okay. So there are some police chiefs and some political figures who just basically they either fought so viciously against the Taliban that they couldn't be forgiven, or they didn't take the bribe. And as a result, they were executed during this political takeover. Additionally, when you're looking at basically the distribution of power and public support, again, I've mentioned this before. I'll mention this again. I want to say that the Pashtun are only between like 35 and 40% of the ethnic groups of Afghanistan. I want to say that the remainders are like the Hazaras in the west, the Turkmen, the Tajiks, and the Uzbeks in the north. So it's a multi-ethnic, multi-linguistic society, which is part of the reason why I fucking hope that they actually use some level of democracy. But what I would say is, if you were to ask the Tajiks or the Turkmen or the Uzbeks, do you want the Taliban in control? Absolutely fucking not. They're a Pashtun fucking group. If you were to ask the Hazaras, do you want the Taliban in power? They would say absolutely not. They're a Pashtun fucking group. Fuck those motherfuckers. That's probably already 60 to 70% of the country that already said no. We don't want the Taliban.
And it all goes back to the arbitrary line that Britain drew.
Well, I don't like to blame everything. Like, Sykes-Picot is in the Middle East and North Africa, but I don't like to blame everything on like 19th century topography.
Okay,
people were fighting for a really long
Britain. It's okay.
But no, people were fighting for a really long time before 19th century topographers.
A lot of this is Britain's fault, though, right? Because if you listen, if you have such severe different interests in your nation, right? You're a different nation, almost incomplete, different. So like, it's almost like if you told the United States and Mexico that you're like one nation, but we were kind of like intermingled around each other, and we were just kind of different regions, right? That we would constantly be at war, and we'd say like this is not okay. Like, and so here's the thing, that's what's happening over in Afghanistan, is that there's different tribes there, and these different tribes are almost completely different nations, and the Afghan people don't even care about the Afghan border. They literally don't care about the Afghan border. What they care about is the actual borders in between the actual tribes. And so Britain drawing an arbitrary line caused a lot of friction in between these different tribes.
Okay,
who cares about the lines? What? So like the situation here and like how to get out of this is draw more lines. I don't understand.
What's your ethnic background? I'm Irish.
It goes back to this. It goes back to this. It goes back. It does go back to war.
What are you?
Hans is German.
I am German. I look like, okay, I'm some flavor of giant, like blonding, like European guy. All right, I'm some flavor of white. All right, so but like that's not the point.
German,
that's fucking
There's
worse.
Hans on one end of the spectrum and then me on the other. Okay.
Yeah, like Nazis, I'm not your guy. But like, Alice, I want to make sure that that we're correcting like some of the record stuff. So the poll you said that was like owned by the billionaires was from 2019. The one I'm cited was like provided me like by Red Charlotte, and I don't know if that's the one that you're like specifically citing. If it is, can you please just give me like a source on that? I'm trying to find it like while I'm not speaking, but
she put a source in the.
But Hans, like my point would be that even if you were to pull Afghanistan 2 days before the Taliban took over, 65% of the country would say, fuck those motherfuckers. They shouldn't be in charge. And this is actually where there is a real opportunity for power brokering, because I hope the Taliban know that they can't rule with an iron fist, because if they rule with an iron fist, people are going to hate them so much that they're ultimately going to support people who want to see them dead. So they know that they can't do that. So if we're actually looking at the remnants of the uncorrupt part of the central government that's centralized in Panjshir, if we're looking at the Turkmen, the Uzbeks, and the Tajiks in the north, if we're looking at the Hazaras in the west, and they're all saying like, hey, like, listen, we'll let y'all like handle the capital, but we do want some level of autonomy. And we do want y'all to not be complete fucking assholes this time around. There actually is a real opportunity for pseudo-representative, pseudo-democratic power brokering between these groups, because they basically know war hasn't worked for the past 30 years. They've been in a civil war since 1990. I want to say like 1992. And during the 1980s, they were fighting the Soviets. So they've only known war for 40 years. So let's give peace a chance, you know?
Yeah, and along those lines too, you got to remember too that at least some sentiment exists that like these people are seen as heroes, for fighting off the Soviets in the first place. Like there's still an element of that's pervasive in the culture. And like whether, they think that the Taliban is going to be the better government or not, doesn't really matter. They know that the United States
we
is
have
not
any polling, because like most of the polls that I've seen, again, like we want to say that they're Western, they're bastardized, or they're all run by other companies. Like we have no way of knowing whatsoever, and every like source is like completely run by the West or whatever. Like I haven't seen like any like polls that are like throwing us.
I don't think you're gonna find a local grassroots poll.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But if we don't have any if the only information that we have seems to demonstrate that they're like wildly unpopular, but like they're the most powerful group inside the region, I don't think it's comfortable to try to over-represent on the panel like that these are some like popular war heroes that people like a majority of the country support.
So
where was the fight?
Kobe put a link in chat from the Asia Foundation. I'm not sure if that's good enough for you, but page 15 talking about support for the Taliban. So take a look at that in Twitch chat. I wanted to take this in a certain direction though. Because it's something that was said previously, and I never just walk past this thing. It was at the very start, and people were saying, well, ISIS-K, which is where we really started this, not the Taliban, but ISIS-K, if they're attacking us, simply, do these targeted strikes. Well, that's what we just did, right? We did a targeted strike, and now there are apparently, according to the reporters, hold on, I literally have not finished my point.
I can just read the study after you're done, because I have the information that we said for everybody.
Let me finish my point, please. Thank you.
Okay.
They did that targeted strike, and now we have body parts of children strewn about an area like a burning house. These things. So, like when we say targeted strikes, as if that solves the problem, they're targeted, and so they'll definitely just kill the bad guys, right? Especially when you're talking in any city, right? We were going to target those strikes. Well, that's not so simple, as we've proven time and time again through our entire time in the Middle East, right? Since 9/11, right? That these targeted strikes end up just like mass murdering civilians. This is the thing that we do, and it seems as if to looking at this particular bombing. And but at least from the outside, what it seems as if is that we have not at all coordinated with the Taliban. That we had an opportunity to do so, and then we just didn't. And so when you just say let's just do targeted strikes, that'll solve it. It's just that simple. I disagree. I definitely disagree.
That's not true.
So what do you want us to do?
The United States has the capability of doing targeted strikes that don't take out innocent civilians. If you take a look at Biden chose not to. So give me 1 second. If you take a look at how Baghdadi was killed with a non-explosive targeted strike. It was basically a non-explosive missile that went down, and then after a certain point, blades came out, and it was just seriously, that's what happened. Blades shot out of it. And it fell onto the car and chopped him into pieces. It didn't affect anyone else.
Bad.
It affected a couple of people in the car, but it didn't affect anyone outside of the car. So we can't do targeted strikes that don't affect innocent civilians.
Okay. Wait. And aside from the knife thing, there was another example that a lot of lefties mulled over and didn't want to talk about. The difference was that there was a series of targeted strikes in Somalia that was asked by the Somali government that explicitly only hit terrorists. And we had no civilian casualties. So pretending that this strike is indicative of all of it.
Hold on,
I agree with you that we need to make them say fuck that joke. Okay, here's my question. Do people die in any conflict crime? Yes or no?
People die. Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. People die within conflict time. So saying that we can just do a targeted strike and leave it at that is fucking misinformation to begin with. It's not
crime.
That.
Do you think targeted strike is only one person?
Was I done talking? I don't think I was. Great, thanks. Great, thanks.
Because
I wasn't done talking. Hold on, was I done talking? I don't think I was. Thank you. All right. So the fact that we have successfully done targeted strikes that haven't killed people, I didn't say that it's a complete impossibility. Did I say that? Did I say that at all? Rewind the tape. Didn't say that. Great, thank you. So you can ignore that point.
Making a lot of negative claims. I want you to make positive
ones. Am I still talking? I thought I was still talking. That's very important because I'm fucking talking. You're not talking. Thank you. All right. So the fact that it's a possibility, of course it's a possibility. No one's saying that. I literally just talked about coordinating with the Taliban, right, to have greater accuracy. I literally just said that. But to pretend that these targeted strikes are just the answer, that'll solve it. No, it doesn't just solve it. We do kill civilians when I do that. Like that's, and especially we're talking about bombing a populated area, right? Because that's where these people operate. Of course, they'll operate there. So we're going to kill civilians. So to say that, well, that's just a simple way of doing things, right? Which is targeted strikes. No, it's not that simple. But go ahead, Connor.
Yeah. So okay. So this is complex. I do want to address the micro event. Then I want to address the technology, and then I want to address kind of your larger point. So to address the micro event, basically when it came to this strike, allegedly, according to the CIA. Okay, according to the CIA. So you don't have to trust them. There was a secondary explosion, and there was also civilians traveling in the car. Basically, meaning that there were explosives in the car, and those were the civilians that were killed during the strike. Now. That's allegedly CIA propaganda, right? Sprouticus addressed something that I think is interesting because it's actually the Israelis who came up with this. If you look at the missile that we've been using for the past 20 years inside the war on terror, this is technological. It's still inhuman as fuck. We're using the Hellfire missile. It's literally an anti-tank missile. It can go through a fucking bunker. It can go through steel. The Israelis, because they've dealt with their own terrorism issues and deal with their own high density issues, have developed basically a small like canister missile that is capable of only taking out a car. Apparently, this is terrifying, but the United States developed a kinetic missile, similar to how Sprout was saying, where it's literally just fucking blades. And I can't think of anything more terrifying than a fucking missile that's made out of swords. But apparently we developed that shit because we're fucking lunatics and we're trying to usher in like an episode of Black Mirror as quickly as possible. So
what does it make it safer?
So hold on.
If it lowers civilian casualties.
Well, right, but at the same time, I'm just imagining being like the coroner showing up to the fucking car and just seeing like fucking like Claymore swords just fucking shoved into a car and just being like, what the fuck?
It is kind of dope.
Okay, anyway. All right, so I want to address Prime's broader point because he's not asking about whether or not we can reduce civilian casualties. He's asking whether or not we can address the problem. And I think the problem is too big. Here's the problem. The problem is we consume petroleum. I know we're a net exporter, but that does not mean that we don't also we protect global commerce. We operate in the Middle East and North Africa. People fucking hate us because we stick our fingers in their fucking eye while we're doing that. As a result, since they can't compete with us on a nationalist military stage, all they can do is terrorist attacks. So they use terrorist attacks as symbolic middle fingers to the imperialist Western nations to say, fuck you. You've been fucking us over for 50 fucking years. I'm gonna jam my fucking finger in your eye through this the Bataclan attack or the Sarnea brothers in Boston or whatever. So for a cultural diplomatic resolution, you have to convince people that is either Islamic theocracy is bad or that jihadist terrorism is bad, which most people agree with, but not everybody agrees with. But you would have to have global consensus in order for these people not to have some level of popular support, or you play jihadi whack-a-mole. And as long as we're consuming petroleum, there's not really a middle ground here. We either play jihadi whack-a-mole with increasing accuracy, or we convince the entire globe that America globalist capitalism good, actually, which I don't have hope for really either strategy.
Okay, so I don't think like us just being like petroleum like takers like will make that like all those problems go away. Like if we like go on green like technology tomorrow, we still have to like have a lot of like trade go through the Suez Canal. Like the Chinese government's still going to have the Belt and Road Initiative going through the area. Like there's still going to be like massive trade routes going through Central Asia. So I don't feel like that is the it's like the Middle East and Central Asia. I don't think that's going to be like the silver bullet that stops all of these problems. What I want to say, then I'll shut up for a bit because I've been very loud and aggressive, and I'm really sorry to everybody. We're talking about like specific like popular support. This is a relatively robust poll from 2019 that Kobe in chat, who's a fucking boss, has been so kind to provide to us on page 315. They asked respondents, do you thinking about the reasons why the Taliban have been fighting during the past years. This was 2019. They couldn't do this in 2020 because COVID and like people are fucking dying and shit. in general, what would you say? Would you say that you have a lot of sympathy, a little sympathy, or no sympathy at all for the Taliban? And so, the base of all respondents, this is 16,000 people. And again, I'm sorry, it's not for people who don't know how stats work, I'm sorry, this is not the entire population of Afghanistan, right? So, 4% has say a lot of sympathy, 9% say a little sympathy. So you're right, there's 13% of the country has some level of sympathy for the Taliban. And then 85% have zero sympathy. So I think it's entirely possible that inside that group, 13% of a country has support for them, but the overwhelming majority did not and are now just coping with the consequences because they didn't have, say, like an organized way of like stopping them. So that's the last thing I want to say about like the popularity of the Taliban. This is the best information that we have. If someone wants to like do some like field stuff about like who's been on the ground in the region, I don't have that. If you have that, please enlighten me with the intel work on that. I would love to see it. But right now, this is the best we got. So I'd really like to be careful about, again, how much clout and social support we give to these terrorist movements. A lot of them just happen to be like the most aggressive and most well-armed group on the ground in any given area.
Alice?
Muted.
Oh man, why do I do that every time, every single time? Anyway, the only thing I want to respond, and then I'm gonna also shut up about this, is just essentially, yeah, absolutely agreed. The general population is not who the Taliban gave a shit about. The general population does not hold power. They went after tribal leaders and they went after military contacts. When you're doing something like this, which is essentially a military coup, you don't give a shit about the general population. So when I talk about them garnering local support, I didn't mean they went out there and said, don't worry, pat, 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 little children, you'll be fine. No, I meant that they went to tribal leaders and military and garnered their support. That is what they did, and that is why they were so effective. I don't think that people in Afghanistan are like, yeah, the Taliban, woo. I think that people who had power said, well, the Taliban's going to feed us and clothe us and keep our people safe, and I fucking hate the US, so seems fine. And that's literally what they did. That's how they did this that quickly. I'm not saying the Taliban went out there and garnered local support and was like rallying all the citizens of Afghanistan. No, they went out there and they made a very, very shrewd military and political move to do this. That is what they did.
And I can understand that nuanced point. I'm specifically pushing because I've seen this argument from tankies the world fucking over in the last 3 weeks about how secretly the Taliban are like these, like the heart and soul and the popular movement of Afghanistan against the evil imperialist West, and that's just fucking bullshit. And I really don't want that like to spread. So I just wanted so I really appreciate your extremely nuanced take. I think that's like mostly correct. But I was just sure. a lot of the way like people were like speaking and either in generalities or about things. I thought we were giving like an incorrect analysis of like the situation on the ground.
I want Agent 10.
Yeah, so going back to what Prime was saying about targeted airstrikes. Well, yeah, when mean by targeted airstrikes, you try to have as less civilian casualties as physically possible. Does it happen sometimes? Yes, it sucks. It fucking sucks, but what's your other options? You can't put a SEAL team for every other fucking jihadi whack-a-mole game you want to play. You can't glass the whole fucking city, and we don't want boots on the ground. So what other option do we have? It's a horrible situation. I don't want kids dying. But at the end of the day, it's, well, shit, it sucks.
So,
like,
shit, it sucks. Else. I love that. I love.
Well, what do you want to do, Prime? Do you want to glass the whole city? Do you want to put hundreds of thousands of boots on the ground?
Exactly. Provide your alternative. Holy shit, shut the fuck up and I'll fucking tell you. Then you'll fucking find out what my fucking alternative is. So try that. Because you guys are fucking talking over me. So don't fucking.
And what is it, Prime?
Shut the fuck up and I'll fucking tell you. That's when you'll fucking find out. Thank you. Anyway, the Taliban have been actively saying, right, and people weren't judging, are they actually enemies of ISIS, right? That these people aren't your friends. Well, let's put them to work. This is where I was going to go with this any which way. Should we be working with the Taliban? So you have a situation where you might have a person involved with ISIS-K, right? We can actually try to work with the Taliban to say, go get this guy. Go get this guy. If you guys are actually serious about this, right, and people are all ready to put sanctions on them because, of course, the Taliban work with ISIS, right? But no, let's actually find proof of this, right? So if we have people on the ground who are willing to work with us, let's work with them. How about
Do we
that?
have it?
Oh, we
So,
start with that.
so
Wait,
if the
wait, I have a lot of
Taliban takes
questions.
off the jihadi whack-a-mole and then they accidentally kill a few kids in the process as well, that's okay.
Hold on. If the whoa. So sending a missile down. First of all, sending a missile down into a populated area is a damn good chance. You're gonna hurt other people, right? But like, I'm saying that let's try other options that might reduce casualties. Let's consider.
Yeah, so
trying
sending in a
the options.
Taliban firing squad
Okay,
into
hold
an area to take
on.
out one
God
person
damn it.
is only going to take out the one person, right? No, of course not. Are you kidding
We
me?
literally have
what?
hold on. You literally have a chance of that. You actually do have a chance of that. Don't pretend like this.
You really
you
trust the
literally-
Taliban to go into one area and
I
only
don't
pick
fucking-
out
well, I
one
don't trust the
person?
fucking
Beat
US
us,
military to
dude.
give a fucking shit about Afghan civilians. Right? I don't trust them at all. I've seen the track record. I've seen people die. I've seen
Sarkin,
fucking
you're saying it's
missiles.
gonna
Once
reduce
again, holy shit.
casualties.
I was talking, right? Pretty sure I was. Great, thanks. I wanted to check on that. All right. I've seen people.
You're talking but not saying much.
Shut the. Don't worry. I can help you out. If you need.
I'll mute myself. I
if
got you,
need-
buddy.
Don't worry. I can help you all out. If you can't shut the fuck up when I'm fucking talking, then I can assist you. No problem. All right. Any which way. Yeah. So, it's so whether people die in these operations, like I said before, I understand that people die in these things all the time. That's the thing that happens, absolutely, right? But we have other options. You all are saying, well, let's just do targeted drone strikes or just missile strikes in general, as if that's the only option. No, it's actually not the only option. There are other ways that actually might reduce civilian casualties. Am I saying there's a possibility that we get zero? No, because as I acknowledged at the very fucking beginning, that in war, civilians die, absolutely. But maybe before we drop a missile, before we just say that, we just admit that, okay, yeah, drone strikes are the one and only answer to every fucking problem. Let's look in our tool set and see if there's anything else we could do. Anything else. Is that really that fucking simple? Did I explain it slowly enough for your fucking brain? Holy shit. Shut the fuck up. Anyway, Connor. No, you can chill. Connor.
You're muted, Connor.
Yeah, I don't see it.
Now you're the one who mutes himself.
For a second, I thought Prime muted all
I
of us.
didn't mute all of you. Connor, we still can't hear you, buddy.
You can or you can't?
No, we can. No, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, all right.
What are you saying, Connor? I can't
I
hear
was-
you.
I was
Are you
collateral damage
sure?
in the HanzOfHarkir strikes.
Connor,
All right,
what
so-
are you saying?
Hold on. All right, Hans, chill the fuck out.
I'm
So, okay.
gaslighting you. Like,
All right,
this-
I know, I get that. All right, so hold on. Let's fucking. All right, let's break down something really quick because I think it's appropriate for the situation. The thing that Americans do, including myself, especially because I'm a veteran or whatever, is basically we think of foreign countries as fucking Narnia. Like you have to walk through the fucking wardrobe in order to get to it. And whatever happens there actually isn't real because it happens in Eurasia and it happens in a shitty part of Eurasia. So these aren't real people. So we can just talk about it like, let's just do badass fucking robot sword strikes into fucking cars and kill people because it's fucking badass. And on some level it is. On some level, it's incredibly fucked up. And here's the thing. So Prime, when you originally said, why don't we see if the Taliban can handle it? The reason why I got really anxious when you said that is because basically what I was thinking is the Taliban could say, like, they could literally pick Joe the goat farmer and say, oh, this is the head of ISIS-K. Bop! You're welcome, America. We got him. And really, like, that guy was just one of their political opponents or whatever, right? So that was what I was concerned about. But what you said that I think is smarter is basically like if with signals intelligence, tracking people's phones and computer history and all that kind of stuff, we said, hey, you have a leader of ISIS-K. This is literally his address. You need to go arrest him. And if you don't, we're going to have fucking problems. Like you could basically do like a test case to see whether or not they were serious about a cooperative relationship that prevents international terrorism. And I think that while I'm not hopeful about that exchange, you could literally try it with like a fucking lieutenant or like a lower person and just see if it works. Just try it once.
So
and then
here's
take
the
the
thing,
relationship from there.
Here's the
I
thing,
guess
right?
I
We
have two
could have drones watching this person. And if the Taliban decides no, we're gonna help them, then drop a fucking missile and take out the Taliban that's helping the people and the target all in one to show ISIS-K we're not one to be fucked with, and show Taliban we're not one to be fucked with.
Spartacus.
So like, if you're not going to listen to us, we say
It's worth an
arrest this
attempt.
person.
Exactly,
then-
Spartacus. This is exactly it. Not that that drones. I'm not even taking drone strikes off the table, right? Like, it's another tool that we can use, right?
Imperialist.
And if they're driving down a road, a lonely road, in the middle of the fucking desert, right? Well, okay, and we're sure we have them, because we could still be wrong, and we're sure we have them, right? Yeah, then we can, obviously, right? But to say simply like, oh, we'll just do drone strikes and that'll solve the problem, right? As if that's a solution with zero costs, that's my problem.
I mean, I think MOBs are much more effective. I think
Well,
MOBs
okay,
require,
that's even
they're
worse than
a
the
lot more
fucking drone
deterrence.
strikes. Okay, can I hold on? I just want to Black Mirror episode your fucking brains real quick. Like, all right, Boston Dynamics. Did y'all see the fucking robots doing parkour? Did y'all see the fucking robots doing parkour? Had y'all seen the fucking dog bots?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
I promise you, and I'm terrified of saying this, but it's true. I promise you, because of Prime's objections, which are real and morally founded, the United States military is going to say, "Hey, Prime, we've heard you. We've been working really hard on this thing, and I've made a dog murder bot just for you. And I'm going to send that into an Afghan dude's house, and I'm going to execute him in front of his family. There's going to be no civilian casualties, but we are going to emotionally scar the fuck out of the psyches of the entire globe by achieving robot assassinations on a global scale."
When people are not going to be scarred when you're murdering their family members? I mean, that's the thing.
They're literally going to think it's a gift. They're going to be like, "This is great. You're welcome. You're welcome for my service."
The Trojan horse.
So like, if we're down to the act of killing people, then yeah, someone's going to be scarred by the fact that a terrorist is someone's brother and son, or whatever, right? So like, that's the thing that's going to happen, and that's part of it.
Call me old-fashioned. I'm extremely emotionally scarred by fucking dog bots and fucking parkour bots that are gonna come into my fucking house and fucking floss after they murder me.
Like, I'm fucking like, no, fair enough. But like, I mean, if we're talking about killing, then we're talking about killing, right? If we've already made that leap, then it is what it is. But like, I would much rather those people be emotionally scarred, have a chance to grow up and live a full life. Then not, unless we're doing the whole Trump thing, we're like, oh, we kill their families too, because you never know.
I just want people to consider that the reason why I keep bringing it up is because I think you have like a really firm like moral foundation for what you're asking for, is like, let's reduce the amount of people that we hurt and kill in war as much as possible. But basically what I'm saying is like, during World War II, like the invention of the jet came at the end of the war or whatever. Like, I'm a boomer fighter pilot. Like, well, it's better to have a propeller plane and guns inside your stuff. And like, that's what I'm saying is like, I don't think people are ready for how terrifying war is going to be when it's Boston Dynamics bots and robot dogs that are doing the dirty work. I don't think we're ready for it.
Let's go.
It won't be anyway.
Yeah. Let's go. Agent 10, you're unmuted. Hans, go, and then we'll go to Vote Rise. Hans?
Okay. So, yeah, I think I have like two primary questions. Prime, I think your suggestion is not brain dead. I really think it's well thought out. Like you said, very, very cool. I guess I have some logistical questions in that I want to. How would we? I feel like this would require an extremely close working relationship with the Taliban to make sure that we have like, say, data records of like all of their like strikes. We'd have to do some like cross-sectional analysis, like based on like, say, like the amount of civilian casualties on U.S. strikes versus Taliban strikes, and then like we can probably reconvene like in 2 years' time after we've done the data on this, like after we've like done our like backhand alliance with them, like to see who kills more civilians, and at that point we can like yell at each other. It's like, oh, like American like strikes are 2% like less lethal compared to like Taliban hits, right? And I think that's like totally fine. I'm currently not exactly red pilled on the intelligence capacity of the Taliban, especially like in the early days of their reign, to not like say have massive civilian casualties in ways that like dwarf even say like U.S. drone strike civilian casualties. So I would be comfortable with your plan. I feel like we would have, but like before that happens, I feel like we would have to like establish some kind of like working relationship with the Taliban that I don't know
that like that the American like government is in any way like up for at this point in time, because this would require a lot of data sharing, potentially even intelligence sharing, right? We have to because it'd be like not just them like using their own intelligence, because like I don't like the United States has the most like a proficient like intelligence capacity like on the planet, like or like depending on like what China has, right? But like specifically, I don't think the Taliban has the intelligence infrastructure to do a lot of like the quote unquote targeted strikes that we currently do. They would probably just have like a series of like tips and stuff about like, oh, like this like place is causing trouble, or and so
they just need a name and address.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't rely on their intelligence necessarily, right? Like I'm saying, so if we're the ones who want them dead, right? And we're saying that we want this person dead, right? Then let's give them the information to make them dead, right? If that's what we're talking about. But no, I'll finish with your point, then I'll answer your question because you have something for me. Go ahead.
Of course, and like if that's your point, then like yeah, I can completely potentially get behind that. I think that would make a lot of people like in DC mad. But like I'm like global utilitarian. I want like good things to happen. I want to like make sure that like terrorists go bad and like civilian populations are not like harmed like to the like absolute like smallest degree possible. Make sure that they're okay. If that means that we have to like work with the Taliban inside their own borders in terms of taking out say like ISIS-K, then we should absolutely do that. I just don't think I think there are other material realities that'll keep us from like achieving that close of a relationship to make this like a possible.
So Hans, I think you're wrong on one point. You think that our government right now is not willing to work with the Taliban. Like I said before, President Biden gave the Taliban literally a list of Americans and Afghans that we wanted out. If that kind of intelligence sharing shows that this administration is not willing to work with the Taliban, I guess that's fine. But I think that piece of information shows this administration is more than willing to work with the Taliban.
Sprout, please don't fuck with me. I know you were in the military. Like I know you're in the military, buddy. Like please don't tell me that like that's the same as like operational intelligence in terms of like troop patterns and terrorist movements. Like,
no, but when you start talking about what terrorists are, if we're willing to tell them like what Americans we need back and what Afghans we need back, then I'm pretty sure we'd be comfortable enough to tell them where a terrorist is and that we need him.
So that was the last thing, and I'll shut up forever, right? So like that's a lie, but like I'm gonna finish the point. Sorry, is specifically. That was a request, but I would say also an implicit warning that like, hey, we know these 350 people are inside Afghanistan right now. We need to we will see them safe and sound, or there will be potential consequences for the new government of Afghanistan. So I think like I don't think it's so much as just like us just like showing the Taliban like our dicks and say like, hey, you can suck it if you want. Like we really all like it. Like would you please be nice to us? I don't think that's like all that was. And I know like right-wing media wants to paint that as what Biden's doing, but I think there is a explicit thing. If we're no longer pulling people out, telling the Taliban, these are all the people that we know that are our friends in there. If you kill them, that's a problem. Sorry, go ahead.
No problem. So we got to revolt, rise, and Alice. But just before, I actually want to answer your question, or at least your statement. I'm not even sure if there's a question there, but like, I would agree with you. That this requires a close working relationship with them. And maybe it's not something so easy. So maybe like for this strike, that's not something that was available. That might be actually fair. But I think that it's certainly an option we should try. And maybe it's impossible. And maybe what Agent was saying, his criticism of the plan might be exactly true, right? That like the Taliban maybe actually doesn't give a shit and would just be like spray and pray, you know? Who the fuck knows, right? Maybe that's maybe a possibility.
I think like, you have a good point. I was memeing on you. But
yeah. I'm just saying that like, but just to counter point, right? Or maybe it's your point. Simply that it's just we'd have to compare, right, and find out exactly if these people are reliable allies in our fight, specifically against a common enemy, right? Maybe they're not. But let's try that out before it's like let's just rain missiles down on populated areas. I just think that's I think that might be a good idea. I don't know. We give it a whirl. But thank you. Let's go to Revolt Rise and then Alice.
A couple of points. I guess we started in one place and we ended up in another, but I do want to address at least a couple of things that have been said. The Hans was right to hit on the fact that it's lack of intelligence that's the problem. Like the reason why this war went the way that it did, and the reason why we weren't able to successfully actually defeat the Taliban in the first place is the fact that like we ran out of intelligence, and that's the hardest part. You don't know who you're fighting, and we know that every time we kill an innocent civilian, we get something like 1.3 to 1.8 new recruits into the Taliban for every civilian we kill, basically. And like that was a number that the CIA put out, I think in like 2009. I can find a source if anybody really needs it. But like the point is like we know that is how you radicalize people, is you kill their family. And so we don't want to make like the wrong decisions. We don't want to put bombs in the wrong places, just like you guys are talking about. And that's been part of the strategy for a while. The problem is that you need really, like, we have the technology. We can put a bomb, you know what I mean, and like relatively repeatedly inside of an 18-inch circle over and over and over again. Like, that's not a problem. The problem is knowing where to put that 18-inch circle on the ground. You know what I mean? Like, knowing when to do it. And so the intelligence capacity that the United States has had in the area has been, like, you know, relatively remarkable, and one of the best in the world, you know, but when we were on the ground, but we don't have that anymore. Like, that's gone. So our ability to actually provide the intelligence to the Taliban is severely limited by the position that we're in. And I think that, like, you know, as far as using airstrikes or, you know, drone strikes or whatever, like, these are going to be probably mostly seen done in rural areas where we're attacking people that we know are you know, driving cargoes of either bomb making materials or whatever, like supplies, either from Pakistan probably or through like one of the other border regions. So like there's definitely a role for the United States to play using our high technology, and I'd like to see some partnership with the Taliban, at least in good faith, to show them that we're working in faith. But like the idea that the United States is going to have the capacity to necessarily make precision drone strikes on you know, ISIS-K is like rapidly diminished over what it was. And it wasn't that great to begin with. As we know, we've had a lot of civilian casualties in the war. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about for just a quick second is the idea that basically like the Taliban themselves have had like some of the best training in the world by fighting against the United States. Like, they've been able to like mimic or they've been able to watch our movements, our tactics, and study them, and like come up with, like, you know, devise effective counters to them. So like the idea that they're not capable like of fighting off of ISIS-K on their own is like, I think it's like a little bit like naive to think that they're not a very, very like well-trained, high caliber fighting force in a lot of cases. Now, granted, like there's also a lot of like, you know, farmers out there that don't have any experience at all, but the elite of the elite that are fighting for the Taliban have had a lot of war experience, like many times more than most of the United States' soldiers at this point. So, I mean, like, I think it's at least feasible that they'll be able to do an effective job. And obviously China's got some interest in the region, and Pakistan has some interest in the region. And hopefully if we can get them to combine, you know, with Russia, and like, you know, like maybe it's possible that the United States won't have to have any role at all. And I think that that's probably the best outcome for all of us.
Let's go to Alice.
Yeah, I'll just leave mine relatively brief. So first off, obviously, you know, you know, it's bringing in the spice here, right? You know, shouting at everyone about this. So the thing about it is that the U.S. is cooperating with the Taliban. We actually told the Taliban, hey, just so you know, there's suicide bombers on the way to the airport in Kabul, and what we're going to do about it is we're going to blow them off the face of the planet. And they did that. They used a Hellfire missile, and they managed to actually destroy a vehicle with, you know, a car bomb, before it reached the airport. So yeah, 3 civilian deaths, children, absolutely, definitely tragic. That vehicle getting to the airport would have been far more tragic. And that is the reality of the situation here, is that you will have deaths. We prevented potentially hundreds and hundreds of deaths in a way that was immediately effective. And the thing about it is that we are cooperating with the Taliban, and that we are telling them, here's a target. And we're also saying, can you effectively get to that target? No? Then we will eliminate that target. And so we did. And they used a Hellfire missile in this case. The only other thing I want to mention is we're literally every day, I live like, you know, an hour or two away from the Center for Excellence in Lethality. Not Raytheon, what's the other name? The other one. But anyway, so we literally are every day developing more and more and more weapons. One of the weapons that we're working on is actually a kinetic missile, which literally is just, so the Hellfire missile has a 65-foot lethality radius. 50% of people in a 65-foot radius will die next to a Hellfire missile. The IK missile is meant to be much smaller, the width of a road. So that's pretty effective at minimizing deaths as much as you possibly can in a war zone. And frankly, Afghanistan is still a war zone in a lot of ways. You've got people actively, aiming to take out civilians with car bombings. That's a terrorist. That's ISIS-K. We're going to be as effective as we possibly can, and we're going to use every single thing that we possibly can at our disposal. And if that means coordinating with the Taliban, we will. But like everybody else has said here, the problem is not whether we'll coordinate with the Taliban. The problem is not whether we have the right weapons. The problem is whether we can get intelligence in time to minimize those deaths and put weapons on target without it being in an area that will be of danger to civilians. That's the problem here.
Can I?
Yeah,
can I back this up?
Yeah, but I want to be clear that I didn't say that there would never be any civilian deaths. I'll say it again. I never said that. So just to be clear, that was never my point.
But this minimized civilian
reducing
deaths.
So hold on. Maybe for this particular incident, right? Maybe for this particular, like I said, which I already said, great, 100%. But saying that my problem was with individuals on this panel simply saying, well, we'll just do these targeted strikes and that'll solve the issue, right? I'm saying let's look at all the tools available. So for this particular problem, maybe a drone strike or whatever, right, was the best solution to reduce civilian casualties in the end. That's a possibility. Okay, great. I'm saying that shouldn't be our only thing. To just for Americans to flippantly say, right, or Westerners to flippantly say, we're just going to do drone strikes and that'll solve it, right? Like, I think denies the actual reality of the problem, right? So
what goes into a drone strike? How do you make a drone strike? You need intelligence to get on target.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is what my point here is. Yeah. We don't need to go back in. That's my main point.
Okay.
Anyway, counterpoints is
counter.
Yeah. So what I was gonna say is that it's hard. I know that we all watch Minority Report and Intel movies where they have 3D holograms that they throw up on a screen and they're like, oh, I can see into the fucking ground with this radar picture that we took from 10,000 feet in space, right? That's not reality. Reality is there's signals intelligence and human intelligence. Signals intelligence is where you monitor communications, and then basically human intelligence is where you work with people in order to find stuff out. Human intelligence is very cost intensive, very labor intensive. You have to know people that are actually in the circles that you need to know, and signals intelligence can basically make you lose a majority of the picture because you're only dealing with communications intercepts. Well, if people use couriers, then you don't have the ability, and literally written notes, that it's really hard to get that information. So for instance, allegedly, I know Osama bin Laden died in 2002 because of dialysis or whatever, but let's just say the government's not lying about it, okay? Then he literally stayed off of the radar for a decade by using couriers, by not using the internet. So that's how powerful and how simple counterintelligence methods can be, where just by staying off the internet and using couriers, you can be the most wanted man on the planet and still stay pretty hidden, allegedly, right? So the thing that I'm trying to wrap my head around with Prime, because I think he's correct, is that the way that we've set up the system right now is jihadi whack-a-mole. That's what we have, is we kill a jihadist, another person takes their place, we kill that one, another one takes their place, we kill that one, then another one takes their place. Whereas we're not really dealing with, as leftists would analyze, the material conditions or the cultural influence or the trade imbalances or wealth disparities or cultural interchanges or communications or the impacts of globalism or climate change or any of that kind of shit. And basically, if we just think that we can just you can't, a popular quote from the counterinsurgency is you can't kill your way out of a counterinsurgency. You have to address the concerns of the people there. And that's why the, it was the Sunni awakening. That's why that was touted as a diplomatic victory, was because we basically got enough people in the Sunni triangle to say, hey, listen, we're tired of fighting y'all. We want to be part of the diplomatic solution. So we're going to come over to your side and try to help you establish peace and security. Unfortunately, what happened was they came over to our side and then we're like, all right, we're out. See ya. And then all of the people that helped us ended up getting executed. So that's again, where power is hard. Diplomacy takes time. And basically, if we don't have these broader solutions, again, you can't kill your way out of an insurgency. And so we're kind of doomed to repeat this for the next century if we don't think about these problems holistically.
Absolutely. All right, let's move to our next topic. Thank you all for this. But yeah, we'll move on to our next topic. Oh, and to my audience, if you're enjoying this conversation, hit the follow button right now. Hit that follow button. Make sure notifications are on. So I do this 6 days a week. Don't want you to miss out on anything we do. And exclamation social and chat to follow us on social media. Exclamation social. If I can spell that all right, I think I spelled it right. Great. Follow us on Twitter for updates. Hopefully, I don't forget to do the updates because that happens sometimes. And follow us. Jump into our Discord where we have all these conversations. Want you to be a part of them, and subscribe to our YouTube, because YouTube is where you'll find the VODs. So like and comment the videos you find there. Subscribe. It'll help us make that to a sustainable platform. All right, so let's get to the next topic, which is completely fucking different. Beyonce and Jay-Z have recently come under fire for an ad campaign that they did for the Tiffany jewelry store. Beyonce is being criticized for wearing the world-famous yellow Tiffany diamond. This diamond, which was mined from South Africa, was done so under brutal colonial rule. Is this criticism fair? Beyonce's mother struck back, saying that the people criticizing probably have diamonds themselves that they never bothered to source. But should celebrities like the Carters be held to a higher standard? And there's plenty of ways that I wouldn't take this. But yeah, it's pretty simple. There's an ad campaign, Beyonce, Jay-Z, for the Tiffany store, right? And she's wearing this very famous diamond, the Tiffany diamond. And I think the article said it's like worth $3 million, or maybe
somewhere around there.
Yeah,
30 million.
Oh no, 30 million. Okay, so I was off by a factor of 10. All right, yeah, 30 million on her neck. And people are saying, well, you shouldn't be supporting this because of like where that diamond came from, when it came from, and that Beyonce should have known better. And yeah, so but there's plenty of places I want to take this. We'll start with Alice.
Plenty of places you want to take this, I'm afraid. So I definitely thought this one was pretty interesting. This one actually I found way more interesting than the whole Taliban thing. Blood diamonds have a really specific like connotation. When we talk about blood diamonds, we mean something specific, and we don't mean diamonds mined under brutal colonial rule. I do think, obviously, there are problems with that, but that's not what a blood diamond is. A blood diamond is a diamond that was mined actually to profit people who are making war in a country like this. That's what we mean by blood diamonds. So I definitely see the problem with this particular diamond, with the situation that it was mined under, how brutal they were to the people who were mining these diamonds, but it's not a blood diamond. It's a different situation. And I do think it's a little bit kind of like I don't know, like silly, I guess, of Beyonce to kind of defend it this way. She really should have just said, "Shit, I shouldn't have worn that diamond. I'm sorry," and then dropped it, left it there. That would have been the way to handle this, not have have her mother go on Twitter and rage about it and tell everybody you're just as bad and such. She literally just needed to say, I'm sorry, I didn't do enough research into it, and literally leave it there. Go on Twitter and pander to whatever it is that is going to make her various Twitter followers happy, and move on with her day, and that would have been perfectly fine. But instead, we've got people who are in it to make money, and I don't mean Beyonce, and I don't mean anybody involved in this, and I don't mean Tiffany and Co. I mean the people who are writing these articles shouting about how she wore a blood diamond. This is literally just manufactured outrage about something that's not relevant at this point. That's just not really very interesting, and it's literally just a matter of going after whatever we can to make content, and that's what this is. And content, here we are. Let's make some content about this. Let's go for the same news cycle that everybody else is. Might as well, right? Let's all make money from it. It's fine.
Oh boy.
Y'all are getting. I'm asking again. Y'all are getting paid?
I'm not getting paid. Don't feel
In
alone.
Tiffany
I'm not
diamond.
getting paid. I get daily payments from Prime. I mean, you should check my bank account.
No,
large payments.
I do pay Sprouticus. I give for advice, for life advice, for advice on the channel, for everything. He's a very intelligent human being.
Money well.
But okay, thank you, thank you for that. He's my mentor. It's worth every penny. Let's go to.
You pay him in clout.
I have none to give. Hans, please.
I don't want to repeat everything that Alice just said, which was super based. I think I think her mom and her defense of this, I think, raises a much more, I guess, interesting question, and I would say more useful one. about, say, living responsibly, living like your values. Again, we just talked about this a bit. I think this might be a bit more better vessel for this because a lot of lefties aren't immediately jumping to say this person's defense. I think what we can talk about is like the people who have regular diamonds, right? Diamonds are a luxury. I don't think anyone would say that they're not. I think you can say to people that if you have the resources to either know where things are coming from or where things are, you should probably make some level of an effort. Again, not saying you should break your back doing this, but you could probably say, hey, if I know this diamond was either horribly sourced or something like that, we should probably either use it for good, either sell it to to improve communities and stuff like that, in terms of taxation. I don't think that's really useful in the span of this specific diamond, but I think there is an idea that if you have a really powerful person and they are making decisions that say are extremely harmful, right? It's like if someone makes an excuse as to why they can't eat can't be vegan despite espousing vegan ideals, or why we need to save animals. If you have the resources to eat vegan, you should probably try and do that. In the case of this extremely wealthy woman and her wealthy husband, who have access to all the information on the planet, and they can have people who do make make those decisions for them because they don't have to be regional experts or history experts to understand this. They should probably be aware of the situations that they're falling into. And I think that's something that I would hope we can talk about in this case. If you are a massive proponent of, say, civil rights or liberation, you probably shouldn't be wearing symbols that are mined, specifically we know on the blood and back of colonized African people, which I feel is not a super good thing. If we want to talk about how if the diamond's already taken out, so someone's got to wear it, or we got to do something with it. I'm happy to hear those arguments. In the same way that I would say that a lot of medical techniques were developed by the Nazis when they were horribly experimenting on Jews at concentration camps, and so does that mean we can't use those techniques? Does that mean that people can't wear say diamonds that we know were probably mined during horrible periods of time? So I guess that's where. These aren't in particular my stances. These are just questions that I would like to bring up, and hopefully we can have a spirited conversation about them. I think that's a lot more interesting than she wore diamond, is she bad? But yeah.
Oh, don't worry, we're about to have a fight, and Alice has already.
That was a lot.
No,
Sorry.
no, it's fine. Alice has already provided me with fodder, and as she usually does. So thank you for that. All right, let's go to counter.
Oh man, towards the end, I realized I had time in Hans's rant to start fucking writing down the arguments that I've heard over the past week about living your values and hypocrisy, but I only got 3 down. Which is no. I'm not gonna name names because everybody's they're saying I'm obsessed.
Name
so
names.
Are you ready for a lefty who lives his values? I'm coming for you.
I'm not.
Good luck finding one.
Listen, y'all are just mad that she has diamonds. You only live once. It's not incumbent upon ethical people in an unethical society in order to live by those ethics. They don't have to live by those principles. There's no ethical consumption under capitalism. And it's not, socialism or progressivism is not when rich and powerful women don't wear diamonds, okay? And I think that's enough fucking shit posting for right now.
I'm gonna change shirts.
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
So
if any of you got hurt by that, 90% of lefties have making this exact same argument.
Okay, I'll just without naming names, I'll just say where this shit post comes from. I have gotten in some level of trouble on Twitter.com for when a prominent leftist made a lot of money and purchased a home. I heard similar arguments, so I'm just shit posting back just a little bit, and I'll leave it there.
Oh my god, I fucking love you. I love you, Connor. I love you. That was amazing. That was incredible. Oh god, rubbing their fucking faces. I love it. All right, let's go to Revolt.
Obligatory, exasperated, shirt rip.
Of course.
I'm so frustrated that people don't live their fucking values.
Oh boy. Anyway, Revolt Rise.
Is this normal?
Yeah,
For
that's-
Hans, actually, yeah,
Hans,
it is.
yes.
It
That
is.
was true, yeah.
Why have I not been with Hans more often? This is great.
We can all pine over Hans's abs later.
Can we?
Let's go.
I'm gonna mute myself. I can't.
I can
can't
send you
shitpost
pictures.
anymore.
I have some.
Okay, well, both
anyway.
rise, please.
I just want to point out that like this, like the idea that America is so worried about what like these famous people are doing is just like so beyond me. Like why, like why this is, but like also the friggin' necklace cost 10 times more than the Hassan house. Like this is the point. This is what I was saying last week. Like there's real rich people that need to pay some real fucking taxes, and like we need to really fucking worry about it. And I guarantee you that she didn't pay tax at 57% like he did for all the money that she made, and in order to fucking end up in this fucking situation, right? But like regardless, guys. I know she doesn't own it. I know it was just a fucking camera, like it was just a shoot or whatever, but she could afford it. And like the point is like we need to tax rich people a lot more. And like, and then that's point number one. Point number two, blood diamonds are obviously like horrendous, and we need to get beyond the point where we're valuing things like this highly. Like the economic incentive obviously is going to be perverse, and like they're always going to come in the cheapest way possible. And if it's coming at the expense of people's lives, we need to like necessarily make it very, very bad for people to wear stuff like this out in public. And that's my only point.
Thank you. Spartacus.
Okay, so I think that there's a clear lesson we can draw here. You shouldn't be like Hassan, who says one thing and does another. You should be like me, who says one thing and actually does that thing. If you're actually going to say something, you should probably follow through with it. I think with that one statement, I've proven I'm more of a role model than Hassan. But with that being said, I think that these people who are going after her are hypocrites. They sit there and they're like, "How dare you wear that diamond?" As I type from my iPhone and wear my Nikes and wear my Nike T-shirt and all these things where these children aren't being paid enough. Their sweatshops, all these horrible conditions. They're like, "How dare you wear that diamond?" Is like, I don't care where any of my clothes or other things come from, but how dare you wear that fucking diamond? It's just a bunch of hypocrites that are jealous that this person's rich, this person has the ability to do this. If these people who are coming out against this were that rich, they did the exact same thing. Guaranteed. They're just mad that they're not her.
All right, Sam.
Yeah, so kind of what some things that Revolt said is that like, and I'm going to kind of take what Alice said as well. This kind of is a charade to kind of get mad at people who aren't the primary thing people we should be getting mad at, right? Like the blood diamond was already mined. What are we going to do about it? That's like one thing we can take about it. She didn't technically own the diamond, and she can afford it, which is a problem. But the incentive structures here that have made it so that somebody like her can own a diamond that's that valuable is probably something we should be more critical of. And again, something also that Revolt said is like, why do we value these diamonds so much?
Okay. We have answers for that actually. Agent 10.
So one, it's not a blood diamond. Two, even if it was, who gives a fuck? One, to give it to some lefties, right? One good didn't count. She's the first black woman to ever wear that diamond in a photo shoot. That's great. There's only been 4 women in total. Progress, right? Now, who gives a shit if it was a blood diamond whatsoever, right? Half the people who bitch about this hypocrisy some more, you're probably sitting on like microphones, cameras, rigs that are sourced from some horrible fucking shit. Who gives a crap? Who cares if Hassan buys a house? Who cares if fucking Beyonce wears a $30 million blood diamond, even if it was, right? Fuck you, fuck your opinion, and fuck the high horse you rode in on.
Got
It's
another
all
shirt,
shit.
Hans?
Like, guys, I'm running out. Like, I can do maybe one more tonight, but like, I don't. I was like, fuck. Like, I'm tired. Everybody, don't make me do it again. It's harder than it looks. Okay, like I'm sleepy. Like, I need a muffin. I'm gonna get a muffin.
Let's go to
Special muffin.
Eris.
No, you guys can just go past me. Sorry. I gotta hop off. I'm sorry about that, Prime.
Okay, all right. So let's continue. So Alice, Well, Alice and I guess I'm gonna throw elbows at all you motherfuckers. I can't wait.
This is gonna be good, Prime.
Don't worry, I'll come in for backup. Okay, like I was way more chill in my opening, but
yeah, I love it. Unleash the beast, unleash the beast. I need a vein popping. Okay, all right.
Wait, counterpoint. You can't say you're gonna be on the other side this time.
Wait, no, I can't shitpost for a full hour.
You have to. I have a background that's a shitpost. You've got to look.
No, because everybody is saying unironically the shitpost. I can't shitpost for a whole hour.
So we'll start with Alice. And Alice, this is a huge thing. At least I don't think we should make it one. But talking about like it's not a blood diamond. I don't think that actually matters. That like it doesn't meet. And you're correct. It doesn't meet the strict definition of what is considered a blood diamond. And the article that I shared with you all, and I can share it with the rest of the class here. But the article I shared with you all, it specifically points that out, that this is a conflict zone diamond. But it doesn't mean that it was sourced ethically, right? We get that. We can understand that this wealth is just being stolen from African nations. Like the people who have benefited from the trade of this diamond were not the people who owned the land, right? Great. Yeah. So beyond it not being the quote unquote blood diamond, it's not a good diamond. Like let's call it a vomit diamond. It's covered in vomit, right? All right, vomit diamond. All right. Don't like the way it's done.
Just leave it at bad.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Bad diamond.
But yeah, and I think maybe it's fair to say there's some misinformation going along talking about a blood diamond. But what people mean, they don't mean the strict definition of whatever the UN like is calling it, right? They mean that it is an unethically sourced diamond, right? We get that too, right? Okay. So I don't want to just like focus in on just that, right? And talk about like the source of the problem being rural source. Sorry. That makes sense?
Well, I have a problem though with this. So I agree with you. I agree that we should talk about a bad diamond, right? Bad diamond. You should not buy any diamonds at all that are produced in any way other than lab grown. You should buy nothing other than lab grown diamonds.
Lab-grown diamonds.
And the whole reason behind why diamonds are expensive is actually just all bullshit, right? It's literally just jewelry, two jewelry companies, really one jewelry company, Bears Diamonds. They literally made it so that diamonds would be expensive. There's no reason for them to be expensive. They are carbon. They're literally the most plentiful thing possible on the planet. They're dead easy to make in a lab. They cost nothing to make in a lab. They're actually literally perfect from a lab. There is literally no reason to ever buy anything other than a lab diamond, other than because of the whole manufacturer desire for diamonds. So all of that, absolutely agreed. 100% agreed that we're going to be on the same page on all that. But the thing that I don't agree with is that I don't give a shit anymore about this diamond in particular. I don't give a shit about this phone I'm holding, which was made in China with slave labor. Same for this tablet, also same. Really arguably slave labor, right? Literally like children that are paid pennies to make these things. And I'm, a privileged white woman from, the United States, right? So like, who the fuck am I to go after Beyonce about a fucking diamond? And that's my point here, is not about, it's not diamond not bad. It's diamond is bad, but so is all of this shit that I have around me. And you know what they say about glass houses? I'm in a fucking glass house, and so is every other fucker that is complaining about Beyonce wearing this goddamn diamond. It's a diamond. She has so much money. Like, and I'm just gonna I'm gonna say one more meme thing, and then I'm gonna give it over to whoever the fuck wants to talk about it. There is no ethical consumption under capitalism, and this is no less or more ethical than any other consumption in capitalism.
Okay, so all right, so maybe Counterpoints is going to beat me to it because I have a response to that. So now we're going to have a bigger fight than I thought we were going to. I love it. Thank you, Alice. You never disappoint me. All right, let's go to Counterpoints. Maybe he'll beat me to it. If not, then I'll say it.
Yeah, no, I was about to say you can be more aggressive than I can. No ethical consumption under capitalism. If I have chickens in my fucking backyard and then I take the fucking eggs and I don't fucking kill them, like, is that ethical I'm pretty sure that's the best fucking deal a goddamn chicken can get on this fucking planet, is not getting fucking slaughtered and eat eggs. I live in a capitalist society. So anyway,
chickens.
No, I'm not gonna kill them.
Eat them. Eat the chickens.
No, it's okay.
They taste good.
All right, anyway,
it tastes delicious.
So the fucking point is that you absolutely can have spectrums of ethical consumption and ethical logistics change depending on where you are. And on top of that, in order to, because I'm Prime's gonna be pissed, but I'm gonna play enlightened centrist here.
Oh,
Basically, I immediately looked up as soon as we had this conversation because we were talking about like living your values. I'm pretty sure I've heard Beyonce, Jay-Z, and LeBron James all talk about progressive issues and solving issues within the Black community. I'm pretty sure I've seen every single one of them on public platforms talking about it. Not only have I seen them talking about it, but literally I just looked up the charities and organizations that they contribute to. It is perfectly in line for them to be more conscious about the way that they consume things. Literally pulling up Beyonce's charity website or whatever, it's literally talking about addressing water issues in Africa, in education issues in Africa. Looking at LeBron James's school system stuff, he's not only addressing basically creating better schools, he's also addressing youth homelessness. So literally, he's taking his obscene wealth and power, which was my criticism, taking a fraction of it and contributing it to causes that he ostensibly cares about. And so I think being mildly critical in this situation, did I lose y'all or no?
No, I got it because he dropped counterpoints dropped the ball, so I'm gonna pick it up before we pass.
Yeah, go ahead, be angry.
Okay,
totally
yeah, got to. All right, so
Just don't shout at me, okay?
Okay. She's a delicate flower.
I yell at everyone
anyway.
She's a delicate
Shout at
flower.
Sprout, but okay. Shout at Sprout, but we know you're really shouting at Alice, and then that way she can pretend that you're not.
No, that works too. All right, and I like that idea as well.
You should shout at me, but just don't look at my past comments in your channel.
Oh boy. Oh boy. But Alice, I would say that yes, there's no ethical consumption under capitalism. Great, 100%. But there is something called overconsumption, right? Like we can understand that, like to operate in our society, right, to fully operate and engage in our society, we need these things, right, that are not ethically sourced, like our phones, our computers, right, that have the coltan in them, which is like, comes from conflict zones, right? Like we get that. To operate in our society, it requires to fully to engage with our society, it requires that you use these things. And right now, we don't really have great alternatives. Hopefully, one day we can get them. Diamonds are not a thing that you require. Right? Like we get that, we all understand that there's overconsumption. And yes, I can blame you if you in the process of overconsuming, which I don't think is always necessarily a bad thing, but at least in that process of overconsuming, that you use something that is unethically sourced, that you something you absolutely didn't need. You absolutely don't need a diamond. Beyonce didn't buy this diamond, we can say that again, right? But we can talk about just diamonds in general, of course, right? You don't need to buy this diamond for fucking anything. It is not a requirement to get married either, right? But like you decide to do this and then not source it or anything like that. In that case, I can criticize you and I will criticize you, right? There are definitely other alternatives to that. So does that make sense, Alice?
So, well, let me make sure that I understand something here, because I just want to make sure I read through this article and I did some research around it, but I couldn't really find a great answer to this. From what I understand about that diamond that she's wearing, she didn't buy it.
She didn't buy it.
She doesn't own it.
No, yeah, I said that. Yeah, just now.
It's Tiffany's. Yeah.
Well, I just want to make sure I understood you correctly. So I would probably feel differently about the situation if she bought it, right? If she somehow could buy that diamond, I'd feel probably a little differently about it. But she didn't. So the outrage that we're talking about here, because we're talking about specific outrage, we're not talking about all diamonds. No, I agree with you against all diamonds.
I just said all diamonds. I just said like we could talk about diamonds in general. So I said acknowledging that.
But I don't care about diamonds in general. I care about this one article about Beyonce wearing a diamond, not buying a diamond, not all diamonds. I already said use lab-grown diamonds. Don't buy diamonds ever.
No. So, all right. Maybe we're misunderstanding each other. What I'm saying is that we can take this conversation into a general discussion about buying diamonds.
But then you and I agree.
Okay, great. Well, then good, because then that means I'm right.
Well, then I'll disagree.
But like,
Alice,
you guys could agree.
If we keep it on like just should Beyonce have diamonds or use diamonds, like it was supposed to be like a vessel for a larger conversation about like more stuff. It's like otherwise this would be extremely short conversation.
I agree.
I'll take the burden then.
The question,
yeah, let her buy it.
The question is literally just talking about her wearing the diamond. Is the criticism fair?
Alice, I don't know why you're being so literal now. I don't know why you're doing this. Yeah.
It was supposed to set us on a track to talk about our phones, our T-shirts, our shoes. It was supposed to set us on a track to talk about all these other things that aren't ethically sourced.
And I'm way more problematic than Beyonce. You know what I mean?
But did you hear what I said? Did you hear anything that I said? Like,
this
Alice,
is not necessary. This is an e-reader.
Alice,
Was it the test?
Alice, did you hear Olivia?
A study
anything?
guide. I want to have this
What I
conversation.
said, I said that to actually engage in our society, right? Fully.
This is not necessary.
We need electronics. Okay, well then you're a fucking terrible person.
Yes,
but like,
absolutely.
But my point is that like when we're
But
talking
the
about
computer
true
you're on isn't
overconsumption-
necessary either, Prime.
No,
right?
no, hold on.
Like,
To
Yeah,
actually-
neither is his
to
headphones
actually-
or his
hold on, to
GPU or
actually-
any other things he
No,
has in
hold
his
on,
rig.
no, hold on. Fuck you. No, fuck you. Because you know what
Oh,
you're doing.
really?
No, yeah, fuck you, really. No. But
All right.
you
Oh my
understand
God.
that to actually, right now, to make money, right, then this thing is necessary, right, for me to do
Prime,
these
you
things.
don't need a GPU. You did a lot of your streaming career
Oh,
without a
I
GPU.
actually don't
Why
have
do
a
you
GPU.
in
I
your
literally don't
computer?
have a GPU. So I don't.
That
So
explains
there
the
you go.
camera.
All right. Anyway.
Oh, you got 7 GPU.
It's not in. It's a long
Gang,
story.
just-
Anyway, shut up for a second. Holy shit. Let me just get this point out. As Counterpoints said earlier, and he did it quite eloquently, like there's spectrums of these things, right? Spectrum of bad, right? A spectrum of unethically sourced, of taking advantage of slave labor and all that, right? And we can make judgments about these things. In fact, that's why I'm asking you to make judgments about these things. I'm saying, in my judgment, and that like diamonds are completely unnecessary, right? There's just like no use for them, honestly. Well, and if you want to give someone a rock, thank you for the 500 bits, Shadowfox. If you want, well, you can just give them money directly, right? Or you can give them something else that either is a diamond that is, as you said, Alice, lab grown, or some other kind of rock that is ethically sourced, right? These are our options, other options. So I'm saying this is a bad thing. And then it's true that Beyonce didn't buy this thing. Great, 100%. But she supported the whole point of the ad campaign. Whole point of ad campaign is to get people to shop at Tiffany's, and Tiffany's has said that it's going to use mined diamonds. It's not going to be using lab-grown diamonds, right? So she is participating in this economy of encouraging people to buy these types of diamonds, right? So yeah, we can criticize Beyonce. You want to keep it on Beyonce, we can do that. But I actually did want to expand this beyond that. And you know that I do conversation starters, honestly. God damn it. All right, Alice
Okay.
respond, and then we'll go to Hans, and we'll go to Agent. Okay.
Okay.
Alice.
I wasn't sure if you were saying Hans first. I couldn't hear
So
the
I
first
said
part of your
Alice,
sentence.
Hans, and then Agent.
Gotcha. I just want to make sure that I understand something. Because so Tiffany themselves now at this point, zero tolerance towards conflict diamonds and whatever. So mined diamonds. What are the conditions that people are mining diamonds under right now? Like conditions negative, conditions. What kind of conditions are we looking at? I don't know enough about that.
Sure. Some of them are negative. I mean, I imagine I don't know all the conditions of each and every mine, right? I imagine some are actually quote unquote ethically sourced, right? One of my problems is that the money is not going to the people of those nations, right? These are foreign companies that are taking that, using that to get rich, and for that. So I don't know. I'm not sure of any mined diamond. I'm not sure of a single one of them is at what would meet my definition of ethically mined. But
Right.
So yeah. But
Yeah,
again, there's spectrums of that, right? Like if the workers aren't being fucking like tortured for not meeting a quota, well, that's better, right, than a mine where they are, you know. So, but spectrums to this.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I mean, my only other question, I guess, is what about like silicon mines? Because like silicon doesn't appear out of nowhere. So I guess you're just saying all diamonds, not just mined diamonds, but also lab grown diamonds, which are also unethical. Then in that case, silicon is also mined in similar conditions.
I don't know if it is, but I mean, not actually. I'm saying I don't know. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
If that's the case, that's something to think about, right? Then maybe diamonds in general. So I don't know, but that's a good question.
If silicon, that is true.
Let's go to Hans and then Agent and then Sprout. Okay.
Okay, so this is probably, you could call this like my most, it's not even like a conservative take. Like everyone, like lefties, fellow people who should definitely touch grass because we're all super online. I am very much in favor of living your values. And I think everyone should do
a quote unquote good faith effort to try and live those values. So, like ways that you can like say like someone can like attempt this without having like a completely sad humdrum like no fun life whatsoever, right? Let's say silicon and diamonds are mined in the same terrible conditions, right? I actually have to use a computer for my job. I use a computer for streaming, which is like part of my job. So I have purchased computer to help me do my job and help me stream. I have not bought diamonds. So I have made the choice to buy one thing in society that I do not need to buy. Otherwise, I personally care about, say, providing to make sure that I'm not like, if you want to talk about overconsumption, I think I live a very luxurious life. I'm a 23-year-old man with no dependents. With like, I don't take care of anybody. My parents are currently fine. They don't need help. My monetary help. They're not going to retire for another 10 years, so they're okay. I don't have a lot of student loan debt. I got a lot of scholarships in college, and I'm currently making between $50,000 and $60,000 a year. Right. So I am doing extremely well for myself. That's why when I'm streaming, I explicitly tell all of my audience to not pay me, to not sub to me, to not donate to me, because I do not need that money. I've told them now that people have started to donate like out of spite to make fun of me, that I will take time out of my. I'm trying to do my best to take time out of my 40-hour work week, sometimes like up to like 50 or 60-hour work week, on top of like attempting to be a professional powerlifter, on top of streaming 20 plus hours a week. I am now doing my best because I don't have enough money to hire a person to help me like look for charities. I'm going to do my best to try and find ways to source my money that at the end of every month I'm going to like donate to a charity or maybe donate to like a political candidate or a political campaign. And those are things that I feel like I can do. I'm not spending all of my energy doing like things to like help leftism or achieve a socialism. But there are things that I can do that I can choose to do as opposed to not do to make the world better. And I do not like that the standard is the bare minimum for everybody. And I'm not saying that you have to do these things, but I will fucking criticize you if you don't, because I think you're bitch made. If we come on here and we talk about our political values and we talk about what we want to see in the world and what changes we want to make, and we are unwilling that when we have the money or the power or the resources to not make tiny, inkling, little steps in the definition of progress that we want to see, I think we're all full of shit. And that's really why I'm doing this. I want to live my values, so I'm going to choose to. If I start making a lot more money at my job, I'll probably keep it. If I ever become like a super successful streamer and I like give myself a better salary, sure. I'll tell everyone right now, if I will never make more than $1 million. If I become Hassan level and I'm making $2 million a year, half of that, after taxes, right? $2 million a year. Half of that's going to fucking political campaigns. Half of that's going to charities and like left-leaning power, all that sort of shit. And I think we should try and hold ourselves to this standard. It's not about massively eating each other over and over for like, oh, Hans, you didn't do enough. Hans, you're living on 50K. That's like 2K. That's 20K more than like the American median. You should probably like donate 20 million, like 20K more. It's about doing your fucking best, encouraging people, and then calling people out who make money and get rich off of doing this sort of stuff, but don't walk the fucking walk. Okay. And like that's what I'm saying. That's all I want. And if we want to like be taken seriously as a movement, not be seen as a bunch of like LARPing online champagne socialist dipshits, we need to fucking do something. And like, I'm sorry, like I'm the left-leaning version of Connor on this because he's fucking right. And nothing has made me more mad over this last week watching a bunch of lefty dipshits defend doing absolutely jack shit and donating $2,700 of your money when you make millions a year. Shut the fuck up. You actually don't give a fuck. And as I make more money, I will be more public with my salary, more public with my donations, and you'll know exactly what the fuck I'm doing with the money that you give me, because that's important as a political advocate.
Oh wow!
Fuck!
Love it. Oh, that was a nice rant. All right, so we're gonna Agent 10 Sprout and then counterpoints.
Completely agree, but with a lot less yelling. If you're spouting all this, right? If you're talking about how like, we need to save the environment and gas, usage is bad, but yet you still fucking drive a gas guzzler and you're not driving a hybrid or an electric car or a bicycle, fuck you, you're bitch made. If you're fucking talking about like, the silicon and like everything else, it's like used by child labor to fucking like make our iPhones and you're buying the new iPhone 12 or the Note 20, fuck you, you're bitch made. It's disgusting. I really don't care if like fucking Beyonce gets the goddamn diamond. She didn't even buy the diamond. She's just wearing the fucking diamond. Who gives a shit? But for a lot of people who are fucking bitching about this, they don't walk the walk. They're all bitch made. 100%.
Yeah. Okay, sure. Let's go to
Well, what do you disagree with?
I'm just thinking. I'm thinking, right?
Capacity.
Because part of the question, right? And so this doesn't. So Alice is happy, right? Part of the written question was whether.
I think Alice is
Sorry, it was Hans. I was applauding him. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. Yeah, no, it's fine.
Not sorry, but.
Oh boy. I love Alice. Alice is great. But part of the one question was that should the subjects be held to a higher standard? And again, like, she didn't buy the diamond, said it before, right? But she is encouraging others through the ad, specifically getting paid to encourage others to go to that store and buy the diamond. Like, the whole point of the ad was to reach like a
Well, no,
younger
you're not buying the
demographic.
$30 million diamond. Also, did you read your own article? They do something called the Kimberley process, which means that they prevent having blood diamonds and conflict diamonds within their
my
store.
God. You're just like not even listening.
So,
you
I
didn't even
mean-
listen to fucking anything. So, like, did you listen to the fucking panel? Because listen to the fucking panel, you would have heard me address all this fucking shit. But you didn't actually listen. So
What,
I'll
that
do
you
it
want the
again for you.
definition expanded?
No
I mean, okay.
problem. No problem. I can do
why
it
do I
again.
care about your
I
definition
can
of a
do it
blood
again.
diamond?
Holy shit, great. So anyway, but I'll do it again for you, no problem. It's beyond simply well, first of all, this particular diamond, any which way, is been sourced unethically, and not blood diamond, true, but like there's other unethical ways to source to get a diamond, and the people there, right? Like, these things are stolen wealth from African nations, right? And the very people who would be criticizing Beyonce for this, right? Those very people would say, well, that's not ethical, right? The fact that these people are on, like, anyone on Twitter, right? Any lefty on Twitter will tell you, well, that's not ethical. And you should, we should be able, the people of Africa should be able to get wealth from, like, their own resource, just like any other fucking nation, right? Other nations, right? So if that's the case, and those people are still criticizing Beyonce while wearing diamonds themselves, the question I'm trying to get to, right? Where I'm trying to get to this is that should Beyonce and Jay-Z be held to a higher standard than the average public, right? Is it okay to make an example of a person who is making more of an impact? Like Beyonce wearing that stuff is more of an impact than any other random person wearing a diamond. So should be held to a higher standard. So we'll let Agent 10 go, and then we'll go to Spartacus, and then Counterpoints.
I have an emergency, so I have to leave the panel. I'm sorry.
No problem. I have it going. And go ahead, Agent 10.
Yeah, so majority of everything in this world is stolen, resources and all that don't benefit the nations, and I get that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I really don't understand the outrage of this one diamond. Now, for the part of, like, should Jay-Z and Beyonce be even held more accountable? I mean, what I don't think so. I really don't care. Could they have found a better? Would it be better if she wore a lab-grown diamond? I mean, I guess, but do I give a fuck? No, I don't at all. Sorry. Like, I don't give a shit if it's a $30 million, special yellow diamond that they found that isn't a blood diamond at all, or that if it's a fucking lab-grown $30 million diamond that they synthesized. I don't give a shit.
Okay. Let's go to Spartacus and then Counterpoints.
Okay, so according to the LA Times, this is going back to what Alice, after all, was talking about with silicone. According to
silicon, not silicone. That's a very different.
My bad.
Sorry.
According to
Silicone's a very different precious material.
That's so much.
Okay,
yes, agreed.
Okay. According to McCaw's calculations, to obtain about 100 grams or so of minerals found in a single iPhone, miners around the world have to dig dynamite chip and process their way through about 75 pounds of rock. On just about every continent, many of these miners are risking their lives to provide you with a device that lets you read this while you're waiting in line for your bathroom. For example, the mud pit mines on Indonesia's Bangka Island, another source of tin for Apple, are arguably even deadlier than the Cerro Rico complex. Miners there have been swallowed by landslides, collapsing pits. 6 died in 1 week in 2012 and in 2014. So yes, the phones, they're completely unethical, and yeah, you're bitch made. These people who are complaining about these diamonds, you're bitch made, because you're not even gonna stand up for your own values. You're gonna expect everyone else to stand up for your own values. You're gonna pretend like you're the most ethical person on the earth. You don't care where your diamond was sourced from. You don't care where your iPhone was sourced from. You don't care where your Nikes are sourced from. All you care about is that you experience the luxuries that you can afford in life. But to everyone who has more luxuries than you get jealous and you try and point out everything that's wrong with them because you're bitch made. That's just how it is. So yeah, if you're complaining about Beyonce's wearing the diamond, and you've got an iPhone and you wear Nikes and you've got a tablet, you've got a computer, yeah, you're bitch made.
Okay, so two things. One, when did this become a thing? Bitch made? Is this
Hans did it
40 minutes ago.
Yeah, I'll say it again, and all you fucking people in chat, you're a bunch of mad, sad little triggered lefty bitches right now. You're like, oh, you have privilege. Oh, charities want capitalism. Then let's call it mutual aid because you probably can't fucking tell the difference. Eat grass, you sad little bitches. Like, is this really what you want life to be? Us constantly sad and mulling on the internet and never approaching political power or activism?
Okay.
Shut the fuck up!
All right, we got it. Thanks. All right. I was just very confused. And a slight pushback. Well, a slight pushback is that
I'm ready to push!
From what you said, Spartacus, the article you were reading, what you said, it sounds like the dangers that they're facing are dangers of mining in general, because mining is inherently dangerous, right? Like here in the States, like we have mines, we have mine collapses here in the States, right? Like this thing that happens. But so I'm not saying that this. I'm just saying that I just want to disaggregate like mining as safe as can be. I don't know if the mines you're talking about are as safe as can be, right? And then mining that like is just like fucking terrible, like there's no safety standards or whatever. I don't know.
According to Insider, about the same one, Apple's iPhone suppliers use children to dig in lethally dangerous mud pits for tin ore.
Okay, fair enough. I just wanted to make sure. Get to that. All right, fair enough. Let's go to counterpoints.
No, this is completely fucking wrong, and everybody is bitch made in an opposite direction. Okay, so basically, as you gain power and wealth in society, you absolutely have a responsibility to forward your agenda with your power and your wealth, and not just that, you have a responsibility to consume more ethically. So, for instance, back when I was broke, and still it happens where I'm fucking broke, I shop at Walmart. Walmart is an ethically unsound fucking crime against humanity that uses state subsidies in order to pay its workers bullshit, okay? The Walton family are fucking criminals. But when I get paid, guess what I do? I fucking shop at Publix.
You're not even talking about like the intelligence agencies, and once again, the CIA have struck again. I don't know why they hate you so much. So try it again, buddy.
It's all right. When I become a grifting leftist, I'll get enough money to pay for a new computer, so that'll be great. But the point is that basically, like when I have whenever I buy eggs, despite them being like double or triple the price, I buy the humane eggs because I know that these chickens are raised in a different kind of environment. I have the ability to put my money where my mouth is, and as you grow in wealth and power, and you have the ability to ethically consume, you should ethically consume. You should put your money towards companies that have a more ethical brand of consumption. Same thing with vegetarianism, same thing with veganism, same thing with basically like smartphone mining. And on top of that, we can hold these companies to account over time. Part of the reason why wages have gone up across the world is because these people have been criticized. And when they get criticized, they have negative press. When they have negative press, they lose money. They don't want to lose money. So they basically update their standards. Okay. It takes criticism and addressing the hypocrisy in order to redress some of these grievances. You don't want slave labor to be a part of capitalism? Then guess what? You have to criticize people who use slave labor. You can't just say the game is the game. That's dumb as fuck. And it's the same thing. Okay, so and then I'm actually thinking of the scene because again I'm cringe and I love Marvel. The scene in Wakanda where basically like Killmonger goes to the fucking museum and he's looking at all the artifacts and he's like, "Yo, this is all shit that was stolen from my fucking from my people or whatever." So a person who the reason why I'm not taking a massive dump on Beyonce is because she is already doing things to address poverty and the effects of colonialism in Africa. She's trying to, build, from what I saw, build wells, increase education, increase food security, all that kind of stuff. She's putting her money where her mouth is. But if she's worth, I don't know, half $1 billion or some shit, then she could literally buy that fucking diamond and return it to its country of origin and be like, fuck you, Tiffany company. I didn't realize that I was being used for a marketing campaign. I'm going to be fucking rich Killmonger in this fucking situation. And that would be like the coolest fucking move in the world.
That would be so cool.
Right. So what I'm saying is ultimately is yes, as your wealth and power increases in society, you do have a higher moral duty to act. I use a smartphone because I want and frankly need a smartphone. I'm addicted to it. I use it for a whole bunch of business stuff. I use it for a whole bunch of personal stuff. I could get a fucking Razr flip phone if I fucking wanted to. I don't want to. But you better goddamn know that if I was a multimillionaire, I would absolutely be researching where I fucking got things and how ethically it was fucking sourced and trying to get the most ethical shit because I can afford to do so.
With power comes responsibility. Like, actually, though.
Yeah,
if you,
like, all you fucking twats fucking watching goddamn superhero movies thinking that the heroes are fucking based. And then it comes to real life where you can actually live out some fucking principles and you're like, nah, principles are for cringe lords. It's fucking sad, dude. I'm tired of living in this world where people worship like role models all day in their popular media and bitch about how sad and depressing and corrupt the world is and then make excuses for why they get to be sad and corrupt. Just try.
Try, and that's all we're asking. You don't even have to win. You can just do small things, like tiny things. Like if you care about like environment stuff and water stuff. Like I take a shower every day because like I get sweaty at the gym every single day. I keep my showers to like less than one song. I get myself like one 3-minute song, get in there, slather up as fast as I can, and get out. Save water. Like do what you know what? You don't have to not be a hedonist. I fucking party like a motherfucker, right? Like pre-COVID at college. Every single weekend, I didn't give a shit. I was living life when I wasn't studying or lifting or working. Like, and now that I'm here, I can't party because COVID. But like, as soon as this, I'm gonna be back out there having a fucking like fun ass time. But it doesn't mean I shouldn't try and do good things when I can.
And can I add just a little bit of backup because Hans and I are on the same energy level right now. You trying is already better than not trying. If you fucking fail and you go to KFC and you eat that fucking triple stacker fucking bacon pig bullshit fucking sandwich where the bread is made out of fucking chicken, you've just told KFC, go ahead and murder another 5 fucking animals for me because I'm stupid fucking enough to give myself atherosclerosis in my fucking 30s, okay? That's what you voted with your fucking dollar. So basically what I'm fucking saying is, you are literally incentivizing the market to behave as unethically as you fucking reward it. And you are one more cog in the fucking machine doing that. Just fucking be the change that you want to see in the world. How fucking hard is that?
It's like, and again, being as kind as possible. If you're a poor person, right? Like I said, I'm comfortably middle class. Connor is comfortably middle class. We can make these decisions.
I am not comfortably middle class, but I come from comfortable middle class roots.
You can make me comfortably middle class by donating to this channel. We have a PayPal button below.
make Prime comfortably middle class.
That's grocery money. That's grocery money, and I gave it to Prime because I like him as a duder.
What counts as comfortably middle class? Like, at what point would you consider yourselves comfortably middle class? Like
75K.
75K? That's not even close.
In different areas. We're all in different areas.
In different areas. I would probably comfortably say for a single person who doesn't have dependents, anything more than like 100K a year is like absolute I would say degeneracy at that point. Like you do not need that money. At that like I am like living the high life. I have my own like 2-bedroom apartment. Like, I don't even need a roommate for this. Like, I just have, like, a guest room for my friends for when they visit. And, like, if I made twice as much money as I'm making right now, holy shit. Like, I could have a house by myself. Like, like, at some point, you gotta, like, start putting that forward. And, like, again, we're not talking about, like, being, like, Koch brothers level money. But, like, if you're, like, so if that's comfortably middle class, right? If all the comfortably middle class people who have left-leaning values, like donate to leftist campaigns, give money to leftist causes, we would have so much more like not just people power, but money power to make change. A lot of congressional races are won and lost based on like the small amounts of money that they get. And so it's like there's a lot of things that we can do just because we like, or so that we can't do because we just don't have the funding. Like a lot of like places why like this, like we don't have like a ton of members in the squad is because like when we first started like Justice Dems and stuff, we didn't have the funding spread around, so they had to pick like critical like key races that like were more winnable. Like with more money comes more infrastructure, more power. If we want to build the outside power structures to like take down capitalism, is that what we're doing? And we want to build those mutual aid networks. The people among us that care about this, that have the funds to pay for it, we got to be fitting that bill. And I intend on doing that. And I hope people who have the means join me. If you're working a wagey, cagey job and like this is the only joy you get in life is like gaming all day with your friends or like watching a Prime panel, God fucking speed, buddy. Like you're just trying to survive and like that's fucking fine. I salute you, right? But like people who are like middle class socialites who like want to like talk about their values and talk about socialism and talk about this sort of stuff. Put up or shut up, please. Please. Like, again, like it's good that you're saying socialism is poggers. I also say socialism is poggers. But we can do more. And I'm not going to put you in prison for not doing more, but you should at least fucking try. Because then if you don't try, don't complain when we lose. Don't complain at all.
Buying a $3 million house.
Can I apologize to the panel? Because like what happened was Hans ran a panel this past week after I had a fucking banger rant on the like earlier in the week about Hassan Piker. Then I came on to Hans and it was kind of a shit show and people were making a whole bunch of shitty excuses and he couldn't talk shit because he was the mod. So I feel like a lot of like residual hostile energy towards leftists. Like I'm pretty sure that's why he's gone through 4 shirts.
He also,
so I'm sorry.
He also came on my open panel right afterwards and did the exact same fucking thing. I think it might just be Hans.
You didn't like Prime. I still have a bone to pick with you. I thought we were going to talk about that on the open panel, and we didn't. So I put a lot of other energy and other shit. No sex. I saw you in the audience earlier. I'm still not sorry. But like, it probably wouldn't have happened if I could have gotten out in another way. But seriously, oh god. Oh! I feel like,
hey, do you have another shirt, Hans? You got another shirt?
I have.
Where do you buy them? Like,
I buy like I have like a when I wear like button downs and stuff for work, because sometimes I have to like go into the office and do that sort of stuff. I need to like wear a button up, so like I wear like white shirts underneath. So those are like my white like t-shirt undershirts that I like wear underneath. Yeah,
were.
I have at least 2 left, but like out of like to save myself a trip to the store tomorrow, I will keep them safe. All right.
Hans, I call you a hypocrite. But you could have spent that money on leftist causes.
You're so true. You're so true. You are valid. No, you are so hecking valid. But actually, though, part of why I'm ripping these in particular is I've moved up from an XL to an XXL.
Okay, oh my God,
so I'm buying new shirts anyway.
Okay, great. Anyway, a Prime panel is leftist cause. So there you go. But yeah, I wanted to expand the conversation, right? So not just on this one diamond, but luxury in general. So can we agree that at least we're talking about luxury items, that it actually might be worth it? It's a different animal than things that are necessities, right? To fully engage with a society.
I would argue a smartphone's a luxury item.
Yeah, it depends on you could buy a phone that was, I mean, but the problem is like a flip phone or something is still going to be a problem. I don't think a smartphone can really count as a luxury item. Now, shit like this, I use this for work, right? But I could just use a goddamn notebook, right? So, like, this is a luxury item in every sense of the word. So is every fucking thing around my desk. I have a Oculus Quest behind me. I've got 4 3D printers. I've got a shit ton of what really is luxury items. But on the other hand, like, you can't just say, oh, sorry. You can't just say that like buying a luxury item is always bad because like it's going to be produced, right? The only like the vegan argument, right? Well, if you don't eat the chickens, then people won't kill chickens. That's not true because there's everyone else in the fucking world and they're going to still eat chickens.
Come on, this is classic supply and demand. What the fuck are we talking about here?
Yeah,
the more demand there is, the more supply
not everyone
there
shares
is.
your principles. Not everyone shares your principles.
So you live your principles and then you convince other people
I don't
to
care about living
follow
my
you.
principles. I care about having weird shit.
But then you're a fucking hypocrite. You shouldn't be making moral prescriptions to other people about how they should live their fucking lives.
But I'm not.
To live some level of your fucking. Okay, not you. The general leftist.
Yeah, right. But like,
you.
who is this rich leftist in your head, dude? Like that doesn't
Hassan.
exist.
It's definitely not Hassan. It's not Hassan. No,
So
it's
let
not
it be
Hassan.
Hassan.
Not him.
But like, if y'all
Look at
don't
his
like
face.
he spends his money, stop giving him your fucking money. Like, what the hell is the
giving
matter
him
with
a
you?
fucking dime.
Counterpoints. I've seen you donate like 50,000 bits in his channel personally.
Yes.
Exposed. Oh my
This
god.
is lies.
Voting with
so
your dollars,
live.
bro. There you go.
And
Voting
if I
with your
did,
dollars.
it was to the pornographic actress he was interviewing. Okay. Anyway, so the
That's live.
all right, those are just
Which one? That's
But,
quite a bit.
no. Okay, hold on.
What, you mean a tier list?
No, but Alice, why does it have to be all or nothing? Why can't it just be like try your
Why does-
best?
Yes. Oh,
Why
okay,
does
hold on.
Why does
Hans, please,
leftism have to be a
can I-
fucking battle of poverty? This is why we don't win anything. Nobody wants to fucking be poor. Like, you
Okay,
guys
no.
have
Can
a
I
fucking
poor?
deal.
address this?
I will
Hans,
Be
please.
poor. I am
I got it.
crushing capitalism right now.
Hold
Like-
on, I got it. Holy fucking shit. Because like this is why I hate people who take a massive fucking dump on religion. You can fucking do your spaghetti monster fucking bullshit and all that kind of stuff. But there's a very common moral concept in both Christianity and Islam. In Christianity, it's called tithing. In fucking Islam, it's called the zakat. In zakat is 2.5% of your fucking income goes back into the fucking community in order to provide for communitarian good. In
What about
Christianity, tithing
Brexit?
tithing is 10%. That's so you can have a functional society, not so you can advocate for the fucking things you believe in. Holy shit.
Shit.
Like,
Then what does our government do?
Like revolt. Like,
no,
but we can. Do you want this or I want this, Connor? Which one wants him?
You guys
We
can yell and
cut-
scream
We can
until you're
cut
blue in
him
the head.
in
You-
half together.
John's making
I'll
the
pull
left
from the
dumb,
top.
you
You
have no
pull
idea
from
what
the
you're
bottom.
looking at.
Okay,
We're
All
gonna
right.
try to corner him.
I got a leg here. Come on.
okay, hold on. Okay, I want to address this seriously, and I won't scream so people can actually hear my point.
Well,
When we're talking about the government, okay,
Sure.
what you're talking about, especially in our allegedly
oligarchic.
Wait a minute.
whatever oligarchic fucking society.
Oligarchy.
Basically, what happens is people take that money, they put it in their own fucking pockets, they put it into administration, they put it into ineffective programs, and on top of that, if you look at the Republicans, they're basically going to hack and slash everything that you care about, and they're going to take the money that you gave them, and they're going to put it into the war machine. And I'm sorry, but these things are not changing within the next century. So basically, your options are either you don't advance your fucking causes, and you basically say, well, the government should do this, and then you die on principle, or you take 2.5 to 10% of your fucking income, you still live a pretty good life, and you put 2.5% to 10% of your fucking income towards causes that you care about, whether that's veganism, vegetarianism, fucking progressives, Democrats, whatever. You advance the thing that you want to see in the world. Like this is, and by the way, the fucking religious people, Christians and fucking Muslims didn't say, oh, I thought I don't have to pay zakat because the government exists. Oh, I thought I didn't have to pay tithes because the government exists. That's fucking brain cancer. Why don't you just fucking advance? Why don't you put your fucking money and energy where your mouth is? If you don't have excess energy or excess money, that's one thing. You don't have anything to give. But for people who do have something to give, they absolutely should be putting their fucking money and energy where their mouth is.
Just
I
Definitely
something.
donated to Trump's campaign. I
have 3
definitely
points.
donated to Trump's campaign.
I donate as a poor working college student.
Okay. That's
I
Hold on, I wanna
donated hundreds to Bernie's
I want to get
campaign.
Revolt-
triggered
revolt
by
rise.
fucking revolt.
Oh,
I'd like to make 3 points. Point number 1. You didn't address the fact that there's like pretty much no such thing as a fucking rich leftist. Okay? Like that. Let's worry about that.
Not
number,
one.
First of all.
Son,
Like
Son.
he's not a fucking leftist. Like you guys just said so. You spent 20 minutes screaming about it. Number 2,
he
like
claims to
the
be a
idea
leftist.
that
Are you calling him a hypocrite?
socialism is
Sorry,
some kind of
are you
vow of
sa-
poverty.
I'm listening.
No. I'm not
listening.
calling him a
Yeah,
hypocrite.
let-
People who
let's-
think that streaming is activism are fucking stupid as shit. Like they don't fucking
Yeah.
deserve to have their money spent the way they want it if they're giving it to some fucking doofus like Hassan. Like maybe this will wake people up. Maybe his utility is he's going to wake people up to the fact that this is not fucking direct action. This is a fucking loser on the internet making memes for kids. Like, and they're giving him his fucking lunch money. Like, it's fucking stupid as shit to think that that's leftism. It's fucking not. It's never been and will never will be. Like, second of all, like the idea that socialism is a vow of poverty and like everybody needs to not do anything fun or excessive is fucking stupid. It's why we lose every fucking time.
like I live
about
I live
making people-
vicariously.
I
I
don't
drink
know.
like a
Shut up,
motherfucker.
shut
I
up,
play all the
Hans.
games.
Oh my God,
Fuck.
Hans. Shut up. We gotta let.
I
Okay,
good life.
Point number 3 is that like I give away like 70% of my fucking income. You guys are talking about giving away half. Like, what the fuck are you? Fuck you. Like, I make 3 times what you make, and I give fucking 60 or 70% away. Fuck off.
I
Like,
said
Oh, good.
2.5%.
fucking moral high road is like absolutely insane.
I said
Wait,
2.5%. And I
Dude,
said
fuck
10.
that,
We're
dude.
not,
Fuck you.
we're not
That's fucking
criticizing
lame.
you then, Revolt.
Lame.
Dude,
Wait,
if you're
Revolt,
making...
Hold on. No, Hans, please calm down because I seriously need to understand this. So you're saying that you make triple, so you make 6 figures. You give away 60% or 70% of it to ostensibly either people or your family that you care about. I'm not criticizing you.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is people who are not literally subsistence, hand-to-mouth living, people who have the ability to give money towards things that they care about, give away for Islam from a religious perspective, it would be 2.5%. From Christianity, it would be 10. I never said 50 or 60. Did you hear 50 or 60?
Yeah, at least. I mean, honestly, I don't know what it's going to work out to be this year, but if it's not that much, I will make it that much by the end of the year for sure.
No, but I'm not criticizing you.
so-
are you saying that I said 50 or 60?
No, I'm saying that like just do it and like don't, you know what I mean? Like, we don't have to be yelling about it. The point is like the facts is that like we always look bad when we do stuff like this because people want to be fucking rich. People want to have a nice house. And $3 million isn't even a nice fucking house. My customers one of my customers asked me for a ride not too long ago to go pick up his new $53 million airplane. He's got 4 fucking airplanes. Like the amount of money that you guys are worrying about Hassan Piker for is fucking stupidly low. Like it's like these people like scam fucking more money out of their tax. Like they don't pay out of their taxes, but fucking whatever offshore bank accounts and all the bullshit that they do. Like 10 times more than that fucking house costs every year. Like, that's what the fucking problem is. Like the systemic problem is the fact that rich people are allowed to pay fucking 1, 2, or 3% tax, while the fucking working class has to pay fucking 40% tax. Okay. That's the problem. It's not the guy buying a fucking house.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Sure. No, Hans, please, God.
I'll be nice. All right, like
or a
Revolt.
gem or a whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wait, please. Like, please. Okay, so Revolt. First of all, it's fantastic that you donate that much. That is like literally the perfect example of like what I say that we should probably be. That's like you are the ideal lefty in that case. And what I'm saying is I understand the system is against us. I understand that these super rich people don't pay shit in taxes and they're always going to have more money than us. I'm telling you, like on a macro level, if I care about like small incremental like electoral progress and change, like the amount of money that like Hassan could donate or the amount of money that I could potentially donate or you could potentially donate, those might make differences. And so what I'm saying is
do that. But that shouldn't be the focus. The focus should be on the fucking systemic problem that is orders of magnitude more substantial than what you're talking about. Everybody should do that.
But then everyone cares. But now everyone knows about the problems. Like, are we just gonna do nothing? Or are we gonna like start like putting
no. This is what we're supposed to be doing. If this platform is ever going to be anything that's like for advocacy, right? Like we need to be thinking about like winning elections, and like we need to be thinking about getting support.
I know,
and like support by fucking spearing like harpooning the fucking guy for buying a fucking house.
Okay,
or Beyonce for wearing diamonds.
It's not about the house, Revolt. It's about like if you have the money and power to do something, or if you have like the power or a platform to do something, that you try. This is why like I personally like stand Destiny harder than a lot of lefties, is because like there were like critical components where he thought like he could like use his platform to make things better, whether it's like interviewing political candidates. Like if I get big enough that people give a shit about what I say, I will start interviewing like political candidates, like congressional candidates, state rep candidates, like in the areas that I live in. Like there are a lot of things that people can do, whether it's with their money, whether it's with their platform, that we can do that we choose not to. And I'm not saying that every single stream has to be like I'm interviewing X candidate, but we can try. And like I feel like saying that we don't have to worry about that at all and that we don't have to focus on that at all, it just means that we're pushing out all this ideas and hoping that the aether like springs forth the justice somewhere. And I really don't like that energy.
Revolt, before you address it, I also want to back up Hans really quickly in a non-hyperbolic way. So whether you're talking about like advocacy using your platform or your wealth or your money or anything like that, on a fractional level, like I said, 2.5 or 10, that's awesome that you use your money the way that you do, et cetera, et cetera. So that's cool. But what also needs to happen, or what I think should happen, is basically like the construction of parallel structures. A lot of the things that you were talking about, where it's like we have to take electoral politics, we have to fund the Justice Dems, we have to get into electoral politics. One of the things that leftists continually argue about is that like capitalism, mixed economy capitalism, is incredibly powerful at basically like I think they call it like subsuming or some shit like that. It's always good at like recollecting the forces that come against it, right? So what I'm kind of saying is that your dollar can go towards electoral politics, and if you want to expand like the wealth of like progressives or progressive liberals or socialists or leftists or whatever, that's awesome. But at the same time, like anarcho-communism and libertarian socialism also advocate for like the building of parallel structures, whether that's basically advocating for housing issues or food or anything like that. And on top of that, like the dollar that you put towards that, rather than going into the electoral political machine and then getting subsumed and then turned into a fucking like a Justice Dem that ultimately can't do what you want electorally, it has real communitarian impact almost immediately. So when people take like, it's weird to me because basically like I understand what you're saying, where it's like the systemic is why we don't have the resources in order to address issues within our communities. But the systemic is also why that's going to be like a long shot in a multi-generational project. Whereas if you took 2.5 to 10% of your fucking money and put it in towards like community action or mutual aid, it would have immediate impact while maybe not systemic impact.
Listen, everybody should donate or like give to charities or give to like like give what you can. You know what I mean? If you have more than enough, give what you don't need away. Period. That's my 100%. I'm not going to waver from that. I completely agree with that.
The best way to do that is to have it come out of your check before you even see the money.
No.
Well, so what's your what?
Like,
so what's
what
your
I'm
beef?
saying though is that the average person that's watching this has less to give away than what their vote is worth. And what we should be focusing on is getting them corralled together in a, you know what I mean? Without being a class reductionist here, but like let's work on getting the working class like fucking moving in a direction and voting for people that are going to do the things that we need them to do on a fucking systemic level. Like that's what this platform is good for. It is not like there's very, very, very few people that have any money sitting in this audience. Like no offense to the audience, but just demographically, this is what it tells us. The statistics show this, right? Like, and those that do, please give it away. Give it to smart, good charities, but you do give it away. And beyond that though, like the value of their vote is actually worth something. We need to worry about that. And we need to sell them a dream. We need to sell them a picture that isn't one of poverty, right? That isn't one of like Sprout just said, like that the government's going to just take it out of your paycheck. Like we don't want the working class to pay more taxes. They pay too many fucking taxes. We want the rich people to pay their fair share of taxes.
There's a way you can give to charity that comes right out of your paycheck to where you don't even see the money.
Sure.
So I give a certain percentage, I guess anywhere between 5 to 10 to different charities each month, and it comes directly out of my paycheck to where the money never hits my bank account. It goes directly out of my paycheck to the charity.
But okay, but I can already feel the fucking memes that like socialism is not when charity or socialism is not when house. Okay, I can feel the fucking keyboard strokes as we're saying these things.
Like, hold the fuck on.
One man does not make a socialist movement. One person doesn't do that. But together, we could be a socialist movement.
Okay, but
number one, things like this
are not a part of a socialist movement.
Okay, our political aims are not the same. So while I'm advocating for communitarian good, like you and I do not want the same thing. So I don't want your electoral shit to work out. But hold on really quickly. There are things. So, for instance, like that, most people work 40 hours a week. There's probably 10 hours of maintenance. That's basically 50 hours a week. But there are so many skills that are untapped in like every single community. When I go into my Discord, we got graphic artists, we got educated people, we have English majors, we have mathematics majors, we have literally like I think a physicist, we have like a virologist, we have like all that kind of stuff. And what I'm saying is the same way that you could conceptualize excuse me, 2.5 or 10% of your fucking efforts towards communitarian good along the lines of like the zakat or the tithe, you could also conceptualize your hours that way. There's 167 hours in a week. You can spend 40 to 50 putting food on your table and taking care of your people. You can spend another 10 to 15 on maintenance. You could spend another 10 on, basically jerking off or playing video games or whatever. And
Right.
what I think that the churches and religious people have fundamentally correct is they take 2 hours out of their weekend, commuting time and actual time, to basically either one of two things. Either they go to a sermon about like philosophy and morals and principles and all that kind of stuff, or they do like a charitable or volunteer organization kind of thing. And that's one of the things that I feel is like really lacking from a secular movement, is the fact that while they believe in like collective and communitarian good or whatever, they won't cut out 2 to 3 hours of the week to just incrementally work towards something. And this is something that finally, last part of the rant, especially with young people, it's really easy to visualize the grand vision of the revolution or the grand vision of a socialist society, whereas it's really fucking hard to take the incremental steps towards success. And that's kind of why, like, I'm talking about these things repeatedly. And I think the reason why Hans and I are so fucking pissed is because we're literally saying, like, just take the first step. And then people are saying, like, oh, we shouldn't take the first step because we'll never get to the utopia. And it's that's the fucking problem.
Listen,
you won't even take the first step.
And Revolt, I know that's not the argument you're making, Revolt, but I promise you, I literally hosted a panel where 2 leftists were making that exact argument, and it was infuriating.
I'm sure that it was infuriating, but again, this comes down to the facts of, like, we want those people that can't give, that don't have any extra right now, to want to give, right? And we also want them to then come into money, right? Like, we want them to have good jobs so that they get the money so that they can do the things that you're talking about doing. And like, the way that we get to that is not by fucking making fun of like tearing down people for like Hassan's utility is like fucking very, very, very small, very, very, very limited. Like, it's like to say that he represents the left is like a mistake in the first place. But like, if you're going to say that, like, let him have a fucking big house, because all he is a show. Like, he is the show that's going to convince the people that this is what they want. That's the point.
I'll tell you the reason why conservatives have latched on, including me. The reason why I've latched onto this as a subject, I've literally, whether I wanted to or not, I've literally been talking about this shit for fucking 2 weeks. The reason why we've latched onto this as a subject is because the left has stereotypes, which is basically like do nothing, naive, non-incremental utopians, and that there's visionaries who lead the movement, but the second they get a modicum of wealth or power, they turn around and they stab everybody in the fucking back. That's literally the stereotypes of leftists from a conservative perspective. And the conservative perspective is basically like, hey, everybody is ultimately self-serving. We expect this kind of behavior. So all you can really do is have bootstrap level, individualistic, communitarian contributions to society. And to do a top-down systemic overhaul is not possible. I'll wrap it up in just a second. So the reason why we use this as a symbol, and the reason why we're like a fucking pit bull that won't let go of this shit, is because it's symbolic of all of the criticisms that we have of like leftism as an ideology and leftists as people. And that's why we don't let it go.
Let's go to Alice.
See, I had to unmute, and I had to remember to unmute. What a terrible society. What a terrible society, though, when there's no auto unmute. There's nobody sitting here pressing the unmute button for me. Ridiculous. Anyway, one of the things I think that's always been a problem for me is, and I guess I'm kind of on the revolt rise side here a little bit. Although I think everyone kind of has some good points about the topic. When we take somebody like Hassan who has, quote, made it in some sense, and then we kind of like break them down, we're not really sending a message of like, look, you must, be a good socialist and go be a socialist. We're not actually saying that. What message we're sending is, once you succeed, fuck you. And that doesn't really work well for the general public, because the general public is stupid. The general public is really, really dumb. And we're not talking about convincing leftists or, counterpoints, I'm not really sure you're kind of a centrist. I'm not really sure who you're trying to convince, if anyone. Humanitarian people, I guess, but those are kind of leftists. Anyway, so the point is that we're not trying to convince like the people that agree with us. We're trying to convince the general population who has no idea what the fuck they're talking about. And we're trying to convince, people who might disagree with us. And when we take somebody like Hassan and we shit on him, we're not actually convincing the people who matter in this case. We're not convincing the general public. We're showing the general public that we're rabid dogs, the left, like socialists. I say we, I'm not a socialist. But point is that socialists aren't actually getting anywhere by tearing down someone like Hassan. Now, do I agree with Counterpoints and Hans that you should take actual fucking action? Yes. I don't think donating is the appropriate action. I don't think it's very effective in our society. If you're a socialist, I think you should take some other action. Maybe, we talked about this last week, actually, go for some sort of commune or something like that. Do something that actually makes sense for your ideology. But the point is, like, you have to kind of do both, right? You can't tear down people like Hassan just because they have money. Socialism is not when you're poor, right? But you also have to like balance that with saying, yeah, but you can be rich. We're in capitalist society, but you also do have to do stuff that actually matches your ideology. Like Hassan, for instance, Hassan just streams on Twitch. Streaming on Twitch is not furthering his ideology. Streaming on Twitch is reaching out to children who are playing Fortnite with him, right? So they're going to go out and floss or whatever. Great, fantastic. But you're not actually going to make any political change that way, and you're not going to actually do what you're saying you're doing. You're literally just streaming on Twitch and making lots of money. That's my problem with Hassan. It's not that he has lots of money. It's that he's not actually using that money and power to do what he says he wants to do. He's not using his influence and to actually further his ideology at all.
Rodicus?
Yeah.
That's the exact problem we have with Hassan, right? Is that he's not putting his money where his mouth is.
Right.
When Pfizer was approved, I can't tell you how many people on the fucking left were tagging me on fucking Twitter saying, "Where the fuck is your shot?" And I was at work, my phone's fucking blowing up because everyone's like, "Where's your fucking shot, bro?" And I had an appointment for after work, and I eventually went and got the shot, but it took from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. for people to tag me on Twitter like, "Oh, you're gonna follow your word?" Like that's the issue I have with Hassan. The median house price where he lives is $775,000. He spent $2.25 million above median on his house. This is undeniable. This is just the facts of the situation, right?
Okay,
And
I don't give a fuck about the house, but Sprout, like,
neither do I. Like, okay,
but this is really quickly, Sprout. I think the thing that frustrates me about your situation is you were on a panel and you said, once it's FDA approved, I have health concerns. I've consulted with my doctor. Like, this is a real thing. I'm not bullshitting y'all. And the second that it's FDA approved, I'm going to do it. The second it was FDA approved, like I had objections to your fucking principles, but at the same time, what ended up happening was it got FDA approved and you went and you fucking did the thing. And then there were people still shit talking you afterwards who were like, well, he should have fucking done it in the first place. And this is where I'm trying to be like more centristy and nuanced about this thing. If I'm not trying to fucking, no offense, but half of what I see on fucking Twitter and Twitch.tv is just raw fucking cannibalism. Okay? That's not what I'm advocating for. I don't want fucking cannibalism. What I do want is I want people to say what they believe. I want them to make a decent amount of money and have good lives. And then I want them to take between 2.5% and 10% of their efforts and direct it towards things that do not presently exist that they want to see exist in the world. And then I want people to not make excuses about why it's not necessary for them to live their values. That's all I'm asking for.
Shouldn't we keep people accountable, though? If someone says something, shouldn't we keep them accountable to that, right?
Sure.
I mean, okay. So Sprout, you can call someone a hypocrite. So this is for Alice and for Revolt. I think there's a two-part to this. One, I think it's entirely possible, like, to easily, what's the right word? To look like you're living a glamorous, luxurious lifestyle. I don't think Hassan, like, donating 10% of his income, like, to lefty causes would make him, like, be able to, like, make him live a less luxurious lifestyle. I don't think that's the case. And then for Alice, you're talking about how, like, we look like a bunch of rabid dogs eating each other. I would almost say that it's the opposite, where it's like regular people who aren't convinced
say, hey, like socialism is like when you care about people and you want to like, make society more egalitarian and make sure that like we embrace ideals of like democracy and like taking care of your fellow human being, and that's a society that we want to live. And then you see someone like Hassan who's like, I don't give a fuck, porn stars, da da da. You can still do that. You can still like, make money and play video games all day and fuck everyone's mom. That's what I plan on doing my entire fucking life, while still being like a quote unquote like decent leftist who's like donating to some of these causes. So you get like both the moral brownie points of being like a good fucking person while still living the luxurious lifestyle. I'm not saying you have to pick between one of them. I'm just saying it seems like there's a lot of people who are kind of saying that you do, and that feels absolutely bonkers. And I don't think revolt.
No, like you can enjoy you can enjoy certain things about your life, but when you go so far as to go to where Hassan went, to where he literally watched videos and made fun of people because of how expensive their houses were, like you can go back and watch this shit. It's still there. He was making fun of people because of how expensive their houses were, and then goes and proceeds to buy an expensive house. Like holy fuck, you can't make this shit up.
Okay, I need to differentiate my criticisms between mine and Sprouts. Okay, they are not the fucking same. Okay, again, like I've said this one time, I'll say this another million times. I don't give a fuck that he's rich. Congratulations, he's won the fucking game. Good for you. I just want when you say something, I just want a portion of what you say you believe and you love and all that kind of stuff to be represented in the way that you conduct yourself in your life. And I'm going to agree with Hans. I know this is uncomfortable for a lot of people, but it's true. It turns me off. It absolutely turns me off when I see people who are like, I believe in workplace democracy, and I believe in flattening hierarchies, and I believe in better redistributive outcome, and I believe in securing food, in securing housing in order to make the world a better place. And then I'm like, okay, you now have power and money. Why don't you put some of your money where your mouth is? And they say, it's too difficult. You only live once. You should do whatever the fuck you want to do. And I'm like, cool. So you want society to be fucking better, but you don't want to put in your fair share to make it better. And this is an actual moral criticism from the right wing, where the right wing conservative life is you wake up, you find your fucking TradCon waifu at fucking 18, you get married, you work 30 years, you take care of your kids, you give 10% to the fucking church, and then you die. But you know what that is? That's economically and communitarian sustainable. You know what's not fucking sustainable is fucking jerking off all goddamn day, playing fucking video games, amassing fucking wealth, and not giving it to fucking anybody else, despite advocating for society to be better.
So
that's not sustainable.
So
that's where I am gonna tell kids when I see 15-year-olds, I'm gonna be like, hey, listen, banging porn stars and making shitloads of money is fucking awesome. If you can do it, do it. But realistically, you're not as special as Hassan. You're not as pretty. You're not as well connected. So chances are you're going to have to get up. You're going to have to go to a fucking wagey cagey. You're going to have to make your money, give 10% to your fucking church, bang the same woman for fucking 30 years, take care of your kids, and die. If you could be the millionaire, go for it. If you can't be the millionaire, guess what? You're going to be a fucking conservative, son. Sorry about it.
Oh boy.
So counterpoints. That is what I'm saying, right? I'm just
pointing. Get Allison, but go ahead, Sprout.
Okay. So that is what I'm saying. I think that people should make these efforts at the very smallest part. But at the same time, I could point out hypocrisy when I see it. When someone says something but does the exact opposite, I can point that out. But that is what I'm saying, that if you believe in something and you don't put your money where your mouth is, then you don't believe in it at all. You just state it because that seems to be the popular opinion, or it seems to be the popular opinion of the crowd that you want to be in. But if you don't put your money where your mouth is, or you don't put your work where your mouth is, because you can volunteer time instead of volunteering money, if that's how you feel would be a better use. If you have less money, you feel like I can volunteer some time here and there, then volunteer the time. But if you're not working towards anything, you're not volunteering time or money towards what you actually say you believe in, then you're not making any change, and you're just stating things that you don't actually believe in.
Alice, please.
I guess I just want to kind of the same thing I brought up last time was to have political power, to make change. You need money right now, right? You can make local change, right? You could do something like start a if you want to start a housing collective or you want to start some sort of co-op or something like that, you can do that right now, right? Like Hassan has the resources to do that. But if he wants to make sweeping change, he needs to do something political. And I don't think Twitch is sufficient. I don't think any of us would say Twitch is sufficient to make sweeping political changes. You're not going to convince politicians on Twitch. So I guess one of my questions would be, is it possible that what Hassan should do with his money is actually start putting it towards politics, start putting it towards actual political change, rather than donating to, say, humanitarian, options for him, or maybe he does even, right? Maybe he takes his 2% of his income or whatever, like Connor suggested, and donates it towards humanitarian causes. Fine. Maybe what we're saying is really he needs to go out and actually make political change, because he's argued for revolutionary levels of socialist change, and that's not really something you do streaming on Twitch and not doing anything and buying expensive houses and whatever. For me, it's not even just the fact that he's kind of not putting his money where his mouth is. It's also like he's argued for a very revolutionary style of socialism, and then he's doing literally nothing to further it. It's more just about the hypocrisy, I guess. And then the pushback to him has not been like, oh, you're not actually doing what you said you're doing. The pushback is, you bought an expensive house.
Well,
Sure.
here's the thing.
So hold
right?
on.
So
I want to
first off,
answer
he's not.
this, Sprout, real quick. So
Okay.
I am absolutely black pilled on electoralism. I really am. I think that you can do like lesser of two evils kinds of things, where you can literally say like, hey, this from a utilitarian standpoint, I think this candidate is actually better, so I'm voting for this candidate. But I am not under the impression that Hassan's going to give 200 grand. If he donated 200 grand every single year to the Justice Dems, that shit's going to be pissed out in a fucking single advertising campaign that like 10,000 people are going to see. So the actual counterpoint to that is he's not rich enough to have that big of an impact on electoral politics. And I think that's a real point. I think that's a decent point for why you could be blackpilled. Now, that being said, the reason why I'm more focused on like communitarian or local stuff is because it has immediate impact. You can see it within your lifetime. You can feel good about yourself. You can encourage other people to do the same thing. Maybe you can create like a more communitarian consciousness in the Twitch space, where instead of like spending, I don't know, 10 hours a day fucking jerking off like on Twitch, you can spend 8 hours a day jerking off on Twitch, and then 2 hours a day you can put towards something positive. And I feel like that kind of positivity can become infectious, especially when you see a rich and powerful person doing it. You want to join that thing. Same thing with Destiny doing like the canvassing for the electoral stuff. Now, did that really like shape the outcome of the election? Probably not, but he still got a few hundred young, disillusioned people to engage in politics, and that's incredibly positive. So that's where like electoralism, I'm a little bit more negative on it, but that's like a personal taste kind of thing. And I think the counter arguments for electoral or systemic change are a lot stronger when you're like, Hassan has $2.5 million to his name. He literally did not pay for his house cash. He's just making a few $1 million per year, and he got a nice house. What is $2 million going to do in national elections when there's literally like, I don't know what, like 100 billion, 200 billion, 500 billion being spent every year? I don't fucking know. That's piss in the ocean to me. Whereas communitarian good would actually be effective.
Or local elections, right?
Right.
But
local elections.
Yeah,
that's more what I meant.
So
I just want to reiterate my point though, real quick, is that like I don't think that like Hassan doesn't have any like usefulness, in my opinion. Like I think it's completely wasted. I think that people that are giving him the money, because like literally like his paycheck comes from people giving money mostly, right? And like keep the fucking money, don't give it to him, and fucking spend it in your fucking neighborhood. Like that's 100% what my prescription is. I think that like the idea that we're just like, I just don't want to contribute to like the idea that like he's a leftist, like in the first place. But if we're going to do that, like then we should use him for what he's good for, I guess, which is very little. And like at least to be fucking making.
How is he not a leftist?
So to add,
because he doesn't do the things like this is what the argument that they're making. Like, and I agree with it. It's like he doesn't fucking do any of the shit that he should do. Like none of it. He's fucking.
Okay, I feel like I need to add something onto this. I feel like I really need to add something onto this.
1 second, if I look really mad right now, it's not because I'm mad at anyone. Something anyone said. One of my Pokemon died. I'm sorry. Keep going.
Okay, Revolt.
Okay,
I
so-
want to address this really quickly because it's really important. I was literally just talking to a right winger about this. He was basically saying that Twitch.tv and Twitter is like a fucking clown show. It's a cult of personality. It has nothing to do with philosophy or like engaged thing or systemic issues or anything like that. I think that's true to a certain level. But this is the problem. Politics itself does involve cults of personality. Look at Bill Clinton, look at Obama, look at fucking Trump, look at all that kind of shit. So while you can say that, Hassan is a fucking himbo and he doesn't live his policy and like all that kind of stuff, oftentimes what it boils down to is I think 20% of like political energy is like this like nerdy 10 head fucking philosophical breakdown of what systems work best. And I swear to God, 80% of it is fucking cults of personality. So literally, if he's just like, hey, guess what? Socialism is sexy. I'm going to take my shirt off now. I'm rich. I'm going to go bang porn stars. You can be a socialist and bang porn stars and be rich. And a bunch of fucking young people are like, wow, that's really cool. I wish I could be a fucking socialist. If he gets a whole bunch of people to vote left, that's still political effectiveness.
That's you're making.
Even if he's a hypocrite.
You're making.
Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. I've been trying to break in for like 4 people now.
Sorry,
Give me 1 second. So anyways, back to what Alice was saying. Hassan doesn't put his money where his mouth is. He doesn't put his actions where his mouth is. This has been an issue that hasn't been called out, and this house was like the final straw, right? It was like you're already not doing what you say. You're already not following up with what you say you're supposed to be doing, and then all of a sudden now he's buying a $3 million house. Like, okay, so that's the final straw. Not necessarily that you can't be rich, but it's just like the idea that you're not following up with what you say, and then you're going to go out of your way to buy a $3 million house, which is $2.25 million above the median, is insane to me. And it was the final straw of, okay, you know what? I've had enough of this. You're being a huge hypocrite, etc. and so on. And the house was the final straw. You see a bunch of other people buy houses, but when they're actively working towards politics. Bernie Sanders has 3 houses. The left didn't even come close to going against Bernie Sanders for 3 houses. But with Hassan, it was a different story because he already wasn't following what he was saying, if that makes sense.
Okay.
I still don't like particularly care about the house. It's just like the
I don't
understand your frustration about like the quote unquote hypocrisy. I get it. Every person who is going to engage with you acknowledges like the failure of that. I would really recommend like for your own personal like mental health that you move on and engage with the other arguments that exist around.
Great.
It.
I don't care either because I don't want this to go back to that, but it did, so it is what it is. Any which way, thank you all.
What about the diamonds? Like
what about the diamonds?